Welcome back, friends, as we continue on with our second series of the day. This is again week 4 of the EGF 2021 Big East League of Legends Fall Tournament. It is myself, Rich, right here with Superman, as we are entering into Butler University versus Marquette University. And we've already seen some stellar League of Legends in our previous match, where it was Villanova versus Georgetown unfortunately did not manage to take a map away from Villanova, but they had quite a fight in their second game. We'll see how the matchup is here between these two as we enter into it just shortly.
Yeah, pixel perfect gameplay from Pixel out of the jungle there from Villanova, and they got a quick 2-0. I think today's matchup here on the second match of the day should be pretty similar. Butler, arguably best team in the league, if not number one, then top three for sure, right? They have only dropped a single match in this split, and it was to St. John's. Also, one of those just giga crack teams. They're just so good at League of Legends. And then, of course, also with that comes higher ranked solo queue players, which can give you a mechanical edge, but that doesn't make or break teams in its entirety. We'll see how this one turns out. I do expect a 2-0 for Butler. We saw Marquette play last week as well, and they I don't think they're up to snuff yet. Maybe it's a practice problem, but they definitely struggled against DePaul. But to be fair, both DePaul and St. John's, which Marquette played last week, are again those like top three teams. So you can't get much of a read on Marquette themselves when the strength of schedule is just absolutely not in their favor for these few weeks.
Yeah, the power level and the power vacuum is definitely a discussion point. And as we go into this again with Butler being, as you mentioned, the best, if not within the top three, I mean, there's a lot for Marquette to really have to pull through. They've been conditioned, though, at least from the previous weekend, with those upper echelon teams. So maybe they've been able to take something to learn from those previous weeks so that they can implement it into this one. But as we just wait to get that confirmation of the draft getting set up, I mean, some of the big things really to focus on is again, kind of the refinement of the team composition. We take a look at Marquette and like what they've managed to do. They're still, playing decently well, where they're managing to still get some value across the board. Their objective focus is still quite high. They've managed to find at least, some dragon value on multiple occasions where they are being able to still also take down a significant value of turrets throughout their motions. So again, it's just really where they want to shift their focus in their type of gameplay. Will they look for more of that team-oriented type of focus, which we did see previously from them, or looking to potentially have it be more of that split push to try and find value elsewhere and specifically refine their focus onto those objectives?
For sure. Yeah. And I think for Marquette, part of their immediate directive in this series will be trying to not die to bottom lane. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but also a lot easier said than done against Butler's bottom lane. Disgusting perfection played last split, last year, and more of the same has already shown up huge from Butler Mojo Romo here in the bottom lane. Master Tiers Plus support player. He's also got that similar level of skill out of his 80 carry. And so together, especially the way they draft towards the bottom lane, they'll give them Yumi Ezreal, they'll give the Lulu Aphelios, these really strong 2v2 bottom lanes in their favor. They don't even necessarily need extra jungle pressure for them to take the game and run with it. So for Marquette, it will be extra vision around that river, making sure that if necessary, they bring the jungler down to turn the tides of bottom lane or sack it. I mean, there's always that opportunity for any team to just strategize and say, hey, look, we know we won't be able to match you, blow for blow in lane X for this series. It's probably bottom lane. And if that's the case, maybe we'll try and get a lead on the other side of the map so that we have somewhere to play through. We have a win condition that doesn't rely on outplaying who we think we may not be able to.
Well, and you touched a little bit onto the Yumi dynamic and how they've been using that to such great success. The fact that, according to our history, it shows that there has been Yumi allowed 3 times in this bottom lane for this team. I mean, we're talking consistent use and not being banned out. I mean, we saw Yumi banned out easily earlier in this match. And I mean, when you give it to a team that is as driven and as value oriented and as successful as this team, you just have to ban that out, because now you're basically putting yourself at a serious challenge unless you have, I mean, from what we've seen, a lot of the counterplay to the Yumi is the Nami, what the Nami brings in to, potentially really shut that down versus like the hard engagement where you can't really get as much value to it. So with that being on the table, I would not be surprised that the second there is acknowledgement that Yuumi is free and accessible, Butler's just going to scoop it up again.
Yeah, especially because you mentioned Nami. Another great answer to Yuumi is something like the Leona. But again, champions that all in, flash flay from a Thresh, these things that can actually counter Yuumi, they also are hard commits, right?
Yeah.
The Nami is strong because you pair her with the Lucian and they just always fight and you're going to take them down. That means you must commit to fighting 2v2 or more in multiple occasions, and that's a little scary to do in that up-aired battle if you're not sure that, all things considered, you are an equal match. But here's the draft. Rumble banned away is a curious one. I'm still eyes on. 6 bans away. Yuumi. Okay, it's gone. First ban for Marquette. They don't want Mojo to be playing that.
They've been doing their research.
Indeed.
As we do have now the Akshan as well going to be eliminated. Have seen that been used more recently from a few teams, as they do have that also highly in the ban. Urgot and Kha'Zix as well being those follow-ups. And looking for that third and final one, the Nami. Okay, so they're not even wanting to have either of them going into this.
Wow, and no hesitation for Shin in the top lane. He's going to lock in the blind pick Camille. As we do lose the draft a little bit on the screen. But the blind pick Camille is a little curious. To me, what that tells me is no fear, which is a little scary to see in game 1. But if you're going to bust it out in a best of 3, game 1's the way to go. It's just going real deep. And so when we look at where the draft can evolve from there, and yes, we just got word from production that a player accidentally left the lobby, so they have to just start it back up. You see it on our screen here. We'll see the same bands.
Take 2.
Yeah, take 2. All right. From the top.
So let's see. Viewers, do you remember what we just said? Do you remember that? I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Just start listing it out.
It's all scripted. It's all scripted. Just like today at Worlds, I played Silver Scrapes before the game actually ended. That was a little funny if you got to see that. They played it in the middle of the game. It's like, okay, I guess we're going to game 5. Scripted. The ban of the Yuumi is really important so that they can't play through bottom side. And I also, wait, they banned Camille? That's got to be a. Okay, I'm a little confused.
Okay, that was originally the Yuumi, so
yeah.
That's a little bit of a change up here. We'll see if that sticks or it was just an accidental selection because that's what they wanted to pick. But we're going to see now Butler actually opt to go for the Graves here first this time instead.
Yeah, a little curious. That means the Yuumi is up if we're not being deceived by our eyes here, which is a little curious to leave up again against Mojo. Graves instead of the Camille for top lane is going to do similar things, right? You have a lot of aggression in the 1v1. Again, the horse for Voltade last few weeks has been explosive on this pick. Very scary. Quick early clears, a lot of mobility around the map. You can show up anywhere very quickly. And Rise locked in for Levi. He's also very practiced on this champion. Great things for Butler. And on the side of Marquette, they have really interesting picks. I don't see the synergy too much between them. You have insane tankiness in the top side. That is one of the few champs that can actually take Graves' beating. You just take all that damage and you're just like, fine, shake it off, shrug it off, and you'll be fine in the top lane. Lilia is going to match the horse, right? They're both on 4 legs. They move just about as quickly as each other around the map. And then Geek Bro on the Kiana is going to be curious because you can match the wave clear of Arise, but until you get that Yomu's Ghost Blade, you're not going to have the same kind of mobility around the map.
And you can see the Yuumi came out later in the aspect of this, so that is still going to be prevented here for Butler. That is a very key factor, and really just trying to find out what that committance is for the support line. You do have at least the Braum going to be picked up here, which again has that really nice engagement. It's got a lot of deflection and ability to support that Lucian play that you'll have in the bot lane, as we do see with the final selection is it's actually going to be a Rakan. So the quickness is going to be something to really keep an eye out, how they're going to find that engagement opportunity, what kind of opportunities they can, look to try and just overall gain in the later portions of these fights, but also has a really, really great roam ability to try and get that nice vision towards up that middle position and also keeping River safe. I mean, I'm almost really focusing on the impact that these junglers are going to have. Like, that's something that's just really speaking volumes between, the two of them in their opted selections.
Yeah, it's curious because Hecarim's somebody who can kind of set up his own games ganks. When we talk about setup, what we are describing is the ability to have gank assist, crowd control, something that can lock someone down. And Lilia doesn't really do that, right? Pre-level 6, she doesn't actually have any crowd control, other than like a miniature slow. And it's kind of hard to pull off a gank like that. And I don't see that hard crowd control coming from top lane very consistently. And in mid lane, it's very telegraphed, right? The Kiana has to dive right at the Rise to set something up for Lilia. So Lilia's going to have only bottom lane really to look. And I mentioned earlier how Butler has one of the strongest bottom lanes ever. And even here, these two champions they picked, this is like a throwback, a 5-year-old bot lane here in terms of meta, where the Brutian, right? You get the double tap passive into the concussive blows. You're going to stun anybody, which means Snickers has to be so careful about which engages he chooses to go for. The Rakan's a great pick into Lucian in general because Lucian's so short range, you're always going to land that grand entrance if you're just waiting for the dash to come through. The problem ends up becoming that as soon as you dash in grand entrance, yeah, you knocked up the Lucian, but he comes back down with a double shot passive when you already have a stack of concussive blows from the Braum pick. So it'd be very difficult. And of course, Braum, beautiful counter to the Misfortune. So both these teams have very different drafts. I really like the scrappiness they look for. They want small fights, skirmishes in the river here for Butler, whereas Marquette, they want to bring everybody together, slam them against the wall with Kiana, true display of skill, and honestly, just combo that with Misfortune and the charm coming through, the quickness from Snickers. If they don't combo those up, Kiana just has to get a lead. She has to be huge. Same with Lilia, or they'll be non-factors in this game.
Yeah, so a lot riding on Lilia to either get that advantage or to really try and focus mid lane. But that's something that you're going to have Butler very aware of. They know that they're going to need to give that support and agency to, this mid lane pressure that could be coming through and repetitive focus. And, again, we've seen a lot of in our previous games earlier today focusing on that top lane where it got such agency. But in this one, I mean, we could definitely look to see if it is just really going to be focusing on Geeked and their positioning and how they can get that advantage, which allows them to roam and find value, looking for that late game with that team fighting capability. But I really do like the fact that they had the Braum going into the Misfortune, which is going to mitigate it, because Misfortune has just been in such a prime position for this ADC role and has given so much value to teams that being able to try and shut it down in every instance that you can really try and essentially negate that value that she brings so heavily.
Yeah, and there may be also an opportunity for Marquette to just kind of, again, sack bottom lane, know that they're going to struggle in 2v2, and like you described, if they can go play through mid lane and jungle with Snickers, kind of just abandoning Mike under turret, Mike should be fine, right? You got the Strut passive, you got Exhaust if they try and dive you. Great choice of Summoner spell, I gotta say, against the Lucian. I much prefer the Exhaust over heal. Then maybe Mike can just farm under tower, be okay. It's much easier for Rakan to be useful in roams throughout the early game than Mojo could be on Braum.
And we'll see again as we do have these last final seconds. I mean, with the two of it, we'll even ask it in chat. I know we said it at the start. Do we think that Marquette's going to take a game? That's the question. Do you think that Marquette can come out even with a game? Is what they might be looking for with how well Butler has been performing so far in this season. As we do look just to confirm to get into Summoner's Rift. But yes, I mean, I've got high hopes for Marquette, for them to try and find some value, especially with them, like you mentioned, abandoning that bottom lane to find value elsewhere. And, sometimes you just have to take those losses. You know that you're going against a well-coordinated bot lane that has succeeded time and time again. At this point, you've at least cut off a little bit of their value with getting rid of the Yuumi, so that's something. But again, they are still proficient in so many others in their champ pool.
Well, and luckily, there's a lot less agency and impact from a Braum in the mid to late game, especially, than there would be on a lot of other champions that Mojirumo plays. And we'll be watching here in the first early bits of this game on Summoner's Rift. Marquette, they've got really aggressive summoner spells in the bottom lane. The Exhaust is perfect. They do have an opportunity on the short range plays for that grand entrance. And maybe they can make things happen bringing Kiana down, but I would much rather, like we described, see Snickers actually roaming around the map and letting Mike just farm under turret and get to the point where team fights can build from there.
I'm going to be honest, I really do want a Snickers right now. It's Halloween tomorrow. And
Every time.
Talking about candy, it's serious. What's your favorite candy? I gotta ask, since we're a day away, what's your favorite candy?
Shoot.
I know it's hard, right?
It is tough. I like to give away the full size candy bars. Actually, it's one thing I like to do is see the smiles. But I think if I had to choose one, I really like Mounds. Even though
Okay.
I'm not a huge dark chocolate fan in general, the coconut and whatever, I like almonds alone as a snacking thing, but almond joy is just like the almond that sits on top kind of just ruins the whole thing for me. I'm like, why is this here?
I feel like it's not meant to be there. For those in chat, you should definitely let us know what your favorite chocolate is or candy is for tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll cross your fingers that you get the best of the world, like, you know, Superman had said, where you get the full candy bar. And as we're hoping at this point, maybe Marquette can find a whole candy bar for them to take his first match.
Yeah, and let us know if, like me, you don't think the almond belongs on top, or just like I don't think Graves belongs on top in League of Legends. Like, he should just not be a top laner. It's angry to me that he gets to play in that role so successfully. It looks like they swapped him to mid here, though, despite the scoreboard not necessarily reflecting that just yet. But I think it actually is better for them. Graves can match the Kiana a lot better, and if you already know that it's just a brick wall in top lane, why not let Ryze freely scale there? So intelligent decision making already shown by Butler.
Absolutely, and as we do kind of take a pulse of this, you do have Hecarim at this point starting both top with the Lillian to see if they can manage to try and rotate down towards that bottom position. A little bit of a stray from the Graves, trying to play towards where that Scuttle position is, dropping a ward for vision to know how that pathing is going to be, so the Hecarim gets that vision advantage.
Yeah, bot lane trades doing all right there for Marquette. I want to see more of the actually early gank top. Look at this. Tyler pathing really aggressively. Doesn't have double buffs yet.
Ooh, looking for the Abyssal Dive. Does have the flank from the back. Tyler getting a quick advantage. Has to force the flash out. And Levi manages to escape. And losing that flash is not something you want to see this early.
Yeah, and I actually would have rather him flash a little earlier if he was going to flash at all, right? He didn't get knocked up by Zac, so he's maybe had the opportunity to live. Red buff, of course, was ticking. But if you're going to flash at all, flash earlier. Save your health bar so you don't have to use so many consumables to stay aggressive in the 1v1. But all things considered, great job by Levi saving his own life, but nice aggressive pathing there from Tyler to get the first summoner spells away in the game.
And you can see Scuttle going to be taken in that bottom half, so they've got that early vision towards the dragon side, whereas they've got the upper position. You've got a little bit of an engagement here coming in from Geeked. Also, the assistance of Tyler rotating to see if they can press back the Graves, but shouldn't really be able to do too much, as you actually have Hecarim looking to take now that blue because of how long Tyler has been maintained towards that middle position, and actually going to look to try and strip it away.
Yeah, that is the trade. If you show yourself on one of those like cheese level 2, level 3 ganks with aggressive pathing, you're going to miss out. But bottom lane's going aggressive.
Oh, gets the stun, the double tap, like you said, stacking up that concussious blow, managing to get Mike super low. There's the assistance though by Snickers, giving that extra shielding, as you do have Butler now needing to fall back here a little bit. They had the jungler there just in case if there was any kind of retaliation, but there will be none from Marquette.
Pro also going aggressive in mid.
Yeah, Shin now gonna look to try and get a couple of shots. They're just gonna path through that river position near the bush and just look to reset and still get back to trying to focus on the CS.
Yeah, but again, in this jungle, look at the CS difference. Is double the camps there for Voltage, since he just went aggressively for those camps. Speaking of aggression.
Wow. I mean, there is constant pressure in this bot lane. Butler really throttling right now. And again, you mentioned that this is the lane that you see Marquette struggling against because of how dominant they play. And it is very, very relevant here in these already just early 4 minutes.
Yeah, those flash for flash between AD carries, but all things considered, Mike's still very healthy. And with Voltoid in the wings, they're going to feel emboldened to maybe look for something more here.
Oh, Mojo doesn't manage
Ghost.
to get that. Yeah, Ghost is actually committed here. Really, really overconfident play by Butler, where you're just going to now see the pathing rotate back over to Dragon, perfectly timed, so it's going to be an advantage right at that 5-minute marker for Butler to take the early Drake.
Yeah, he wanted the extra 5 AD for when he's taking Dragon, you know, a little bit more of that attack damage with move speed, but they also have that priority in bottom lane, you know, with all these early trades, which means picking up an early Ocean is just brutal to play against, gotta be honest, because that out-of-combat regeneration means any poke you do happen to land from something like the Misfortune double up, or Snickers trying to land a little bit of his own healing, especially in mid where they're going back and forth all the time. Now with that passive healing out of combat, it's gonna be really hard to make that poke stick.
And there will be a nice back here coming out again for Voltade, since they've got that chance to get the extra movement speed here as well. They're going to go for the... Actually, they're going to opt to go for a phase first so that they can get it with a control ward, so they've got some extra vision. As you have on the counter side, Lilia going to go straight for that movement speed plus the ability haste to drop down towards this bottom lane to give some assistance, since there has been a lot of bullying, but going to go right into a ward, and there's actually a quick engagement onto Snickers, has to force an escape now, but Butler is overextended. They're playing close enough that you're going to have Tyler get the advantage onto Mojo. They get the first blood, and it goes right into the pocket of Mike, the one that you wanted it to go to most, but there is a recovery, at least taking down the counterpart. You've got Carthago getting an elimination, putting some money in his pockets as well.
Yeah, and he's up that 2 waves of Oh, man.
That damage came through. Critical.
The level up. Yeah,
Yep.
the level up there, giving the ultimate available to Shin. He's able to get that 1v1 against Geek Bro. Couldn't find an angle there for pure display of talent. But yeah, speaking about bottom again, Carthago, he crucially held that heal for as long as he could. Mojoromo was able to fall, but then in a now 1v3 situation, Carthago was still in a commanding spot to get summoner spells away from Snickers and even the flash 2 from Tyler.
And honestly, in the top lane, you do see, you know, about par. Not too much eventful action as we've seen previously, and the Tahm Kench just being, you know, the meat shield that the Tahm Kench is. So exciting to see how that's going to play out. And you can even see a wide distant roam from Mojo, just feeling confident to put themselves into a position to get that extra warding up towards where the Raptors are. They're going to get that vision to know where the pathing is consistently from Lilia so that they can make sure that the Hecarim has the more advantageous engagement in these lanes. But you can see some recognition here already by Geek.
Yeah, but look at this pathing from Butler into the jungle. Mojoromo already up here at level 5. Voltaid, they have full knowledge of the enemy jungler, being close, they're stealing away the red, and they could be able to be pinching Tyler here as they're going deep in mid.
Ooh, Geek's trying to re-engage using that. Oh no, and flashing over into 2. You thought you had a safe escape, but found yourself in a cage. As you've got Tyler now having to bail out into the mid lane. Snickers moves up to try and give some assistance to leave the laners in the bottom lane solo. But this rotation around the map, I mean, look at this exchange that Butler's doing in confidence.
Yeah, it's just super unfortunate. You saw that Tyler didn't have any mana to participate in the 2v1 that they honestly had beautiful setup for mid. Geekbro was able to stun the Graves into tower against that wall, and they were just moments from taking him down, but there wasn't any spells available for Tyler with that low mana, and that means Butler will not only get out scot-free and get the free kill from the flash over the wall, they'll also be able to pick up the first Herald of the game 8.5 minutes in, which will surely translate into plates.
Absolutely. I mean, when you've got that type of value early and you're managing to just completely take advantage of that objective, which we've seen them very objective focus, and they can just take these so early. The Drake came in right at the timer. Same thing with the Rift Herald, just past that 8-minute marker. Now in the bot lane, the 2 versus 1 engagement. Levi's going to get very low, but actually still survives.
Yeah, Levi, he must have listened to me. I said, flash first. If you think you're going to have to flash at all, just flash immediately. And that's what he did there. He flashed before Grand Entrance, which means even though he's knocked up during part of the duration of bullet time, he's so far enough away that there can't be any more follow-ups. He stays alive underneath the turret, going to be able to teleport back at full health and hopefully hold on.
I mean, again, here's that focus in the mid lane. Tyler going to get low. Once again, though, needs to be careful. While Zach's having a rough time against this Mojo and Carthago duo.
He is, but what this has given Marquette as wait, hold that thought. Voltate's going deep.
Oh, managing to get low onto Tyler does force out the onslaught, attempting to actually survive, but great job by the support play from Snickers to keep that jungle play alive on Tyler, and they actually escape with that.
Yeah, the point I was going to make is they did this lane swap, and yes, Zach is getting kind of bullied, but look, his CS numbers are still kind of fine. Same with the Rise 2 in a 1v2, but what has changed is Mike is now picking up the extra CS to stay toe-to-toe with Carthago, which was not the case in the 2v2 prior. So this shift may have actually been better for Marquette if they could answer in plates, but no, there, especially with the Herald used mid. Now that gold lead is actually quite significant, mostly from plates across Summoner's Rift.
And at this point, Zach's going to try and potentially shove this to see if they can get as much value as he can before they come right back in. Is still doing very well with the CS management, despite being pressed back under this tower consistently and just getting these last hits that are necessary for the long-run fight. And at this point, we feel like it's the struggle again for the top laner all over again.
It truly is, yeah. And Mercury treads instead of Ninja Tabi as he should have gone this game, I think.
Right.
Maybe Ninja Tabi would be great against the Graves if that was his lane, but he also is going to be taking a face full of concussive blows over and over, so making sure he doesn't get fully crowd controlled is important. He's going to be first dragon for Marquette. And it's a little bit of a consolation prize, I have to say, because we're getting cheater recalls across the map for Butler as they're picking up their main components for their mythics, which is moments away, I think, from completing some of those too.
Definitely, and you can see now that we have confirmation that it is going to be the Mountain Soul for this game. As we do have a little bit of a... I mean, Mojo has really been so valuable across this map. Constant play in the jungle, in the top lane, rotating through mid, keeping vision up, and I mean, stellar overall from this support management across the board, and really just their influence in these lanes.
Yeah, we did talk about that in the draft, where we wanted to see Snickers doing a little bit more of that himself, rather than just seeing Butler, Mojo, Romo moving around the map. Braum is not going to be as effective as, say, the Rakan if Rakan actually moves, but he's been babysitting the MF for so long. And now it might actually be a little scary. There is Gale Force for Like Mike in the bottom lane. That is the Mythic completed, which is important for him, especially in what could be this 1v1 situation. Now turning into 2v2. Supports are back.
I'm just really just keeping an eye on this top lane, where it's like constantly seeing if there's going to be any sort of assistance, since there's been so much focus in the mid lane to maybe try and give more value, since you've got the rotation again now being the Graves in the top position versus in the mid, just all over the places. In the bottom lane, you've got the bullet time now going to come through, trying to see if they can force down Carthago, but the return exchange is going to be there. The concussion blow comes through. Flat now teleport in the back by Geek, attempting to try and get that pickup on to Carthago before they take down Mike, but Mike still goes down. Here's a stun. Rotation now from Voltade coming down with that onslaughts of Shadow, managing to shut down Geek. Just constant snowball of one player after another coming in to trade out the other. You're going to finally see Tyler abandoning ship here.
Yeah, that was the difference, as they committed the 2v2 fight and weren't able to actually take down Carthago. So they might be able to pick up Tyler too. Now that he's going to get away. The unfortunate part was, like Mike, he has to stand still and channel bullet time, right? And as it gets mostly absorbed by the Braum with his unbreakable shield, then there's nothing left to follow up after the fact once they get Carthago down to, like, say, 20% health, like they did in that fight, which means then he's healthy enough to take Snickers' continued aggression, turn back on Snickers with concussive blows, and the rest is history, as top lane 1v1 might be working out for Zach.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, gets that Abyssal dive early, has more than enough of the shield to withstand this, forces the flash. There's the third attack necessary, and that's going to be Zach coming out big on the Tom Kench, beefy as all heck.
Thomas J. Kenchington. I don't know what his name is, but look at this guy. He's a Chad in bottom.
Kenchington. We'll make that song. We'll, like, make it a song. Like, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, true. I wish his name was my name, too, because I would love to pick up a solo kill like that in my games if I played top. He just walks at him. I mean... Yep. He licks him, walks at him, and he's just so menacing, as you see Graves bullying out pretty much every other champion from top lane. But here, the Tom Kench definitely can stand true. And again, with just a cloth armor, like, he's just so tanky of a champion. But it's enough, and he gets that solo kill. It's really good, too, getting the flash traded against Shin, which means there's a little bit of more breathing room towards the top side of the map. And I would love to see that translated to a little bit more aggression out from Tyler, since he knows top lane can hold his own. Maybe either look to follow up and punish Shin again now that he's flashless, or say, oh, top is fine, so I can put my eyes once again on that bottom lane, and this time show up first before Mike and Snickers do that engage. Because I gotta say, Mike and Snickers have found some really beautiful 2v2 fights, but they can't finish it off, as there's a fight top lane. The sleep comes through.
Oh, you're gonna get it, maybe, with the Abyssal dive coming in, but in the bot lane, you're gonna have the bullet time managing to get a clean up here, and this is actually turning very heavily in favor of Marquette. Now that you've got the re-engagement, you're going to have Butler, though, take a quick advantage in the top with a 3 versus 2. The Abyssal dive over the wall. Shield will not last. You are going to fall shy towards the end with a root that gets locked down. And it's back and forth between the two. I have to give major credit, though, to Marquette. Even though they're still finding the short end of the stick in the overall macro, some of their micro plays have been really stellar to keep them in this. For
sure, and they buy some time, and even though they did lose 2 members, what can you do? Yes, Tom Kench is a brick wall, but against 3 members with a sledgehammer each, you're going to take him down given enough time. They get the turret, too. That'll be 2 turrets now in favor of Butler, though a couple of outers in favor of Marquette should be able to fall their way soon.
Second Rift now going into their favor as well, and at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to have Volt looking to go down towards that bottom to open up the third and final, or might just even look to try and attempt at the mid. Just, again, shortest lane that they can take advantage of with the CS pushing as quickly as possible. As they rotate down towards this dragon, since it is available, they might even do what they did last time and drop it just before engagement, so it does try to posture towards one of those positions of either mid lane or bot lane. As, honestly, Tyler needs to back. They're not even able to get into this. This is going to be a free dragon again.
Yeah, they got the nice poke there, taking Tyler down to a sliver of doom, and he just can't contest there. He's the only member with Smite, right? So he can't actually pressure a steal or a fight over that dragon, so they're just going to gift that over. It's only a second, though, of the game entirely for Butler, and that's important for Marquette because then they still have some agency around the next Drake. They don't necessarily have to fight because it's not soul point yet, but of course, they want to contest wherever possible. When taking stock across the map, you see the horse is really strong, or at least one of the two horse-like champions. There's a 3 and 0, which is super strong. We'll also probably have the Merc Dreads coming soon. And with the extra Herald still available, no, there's no more plates available, but they should be able to clear out this last outer turret shortly. And that will give a lot more gank paths for this pony to just sprint from the shadows and find those nice engages.
Definitely My Little Pony. I had to make that reference because you said pony. I'm sorry. I haven't seen that show, gosh, in ages, from Nickelodeon or whatever that cartoon. Was it Cartoon Network? I don't know. I don't even remember now.
I don't even know either, honestly. There's a lot of cartoons or even animes that I'm just not up on. I didn't grow up in this country. I didn't have cable, so I don't know. I'm a little behind.
It's okay.
Behind the times.
You know, I really only had like the 8 channels, and PBS was my friend as a child because I'm old. Let's not talk about it. But
okay, well, you know what's getting old is trying to contest Vision against Butler.
Yeah.
It's so hard because we talked about the buddy system in the earlier series today, and look at it happening here. You got 2 to 3 actual members walking around together for Butler, contesting Vision, putting down control wards, and you can see, save for 80 carry, then there's very close, if not winning Vision scores for every member of Butler, especially in that support role. Snicker's going to do his best, but again, no buddy system, so he has to be very, very careful about where he steps. So those concussive blows can really lock you down in place. I want to see how this turns out, actually. Levi walking towards top lane, Zach in the 1v1. They do each have a little bit of magic resist. They have their mythic, and even though Levi's up a little bit of gold, I don't know if he's entirely safe. Yeah, he's actually going to go aggressive.
Yeah, because they've got Tyler close by. They're going to move forward as now they're going to have to realm work, but attempting to just maybe get that lockdown or stun, but can't get anything. No sleep either to prevent it, so it's an easy Scott-free escape.
And they, in trade, get the bottom lane outer turret and look to pressure the inner with this Herald push. The CY @ play from Levi's ultimate top lane really working out well for Butler as they get that extra pressure down here. Ooh, nice dodge out from Butler's team. Looks like they're trying to get the charge off, which is a little curious because even if you get the charge off, it won't kill the turret full, and I don't think you're actually going to clean off that turret the rest of the way if you stick around. So
yeah, I mean, since it's able to, regenerate health versus the outer 2 that don't have the capability of doing that, they just at that point had to abandon. So with them now looking to try and play the spot side, again, it's just about 2 minutes. Could look to go back, reset, start placing their vision ward once again, sweeping out anything here from Marquette to be in a prime position to get that third Drake and find themselves on a possible Dragon Soul.
Yeah, and that Dragon Soul, now we are on the winningest. So Iron Mountain is the winningest dragon in League of Legends because you stack up those resists, you get everybody starting the fight with a locket already there that can't miss. It's super strong, and it just makes your entire team tanky. I mean, if you already had trouble killing a double lifesteal build Graves, imagine that he starts with the shield, gets another shield from his shield bow, and all the time has additional resist beyond True Grave. Like, it's actually just nightmare fuel. I wake up in cold sweats in the middle of the night thinking about playing against precisely this, right? You have a horse that's scary. You have a Graves that will be unkillable in the front line despite having dropped a couple kills early. And now Rise, somebody who's very short range. Even Lucian, too, as these carries, these machine gun, spell-weaving carries, they're normally punished by being short range, the fact that they have to full commit to a fight. But now, yeah, if they get this soul, they'll full commit with an extra 200 health shield, the extra resist, and the short range doesn't mean enough at that point. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we're only going to be coming up on the third Drake here. But the reason why it's important is not only does it set you up for Soul, but it reduces the level of agency from Marquette if Butler gets this one. Because then the next one you must contest.
I can tell that you kind of have almost like a PTSD moment from previous games that you might have played with how that whole thing. You just went down the cycle of, it's like Squidward from SpongeBob, future.
Exactly.
Now you're going to see an engagement come in. You're going to have that Glacial out front, giving actually a nice block here for Carthago to get the pickup onto 1. So numbers advantage early into this as the Dragon's going to come up in 10 seconds. They're in a prime position. They do still have their smiter, but honestly, you don't want to take this fight because of how well Butler's been playing it.
Yeah, the full vision denial, multiple control wards in the river. That does a lot for Butler as they get that pick into the Dragon. This is their third. So like I described, they will be able to threaten Soul on the next 5-minute scenario. Levi, 1v3?
That's a little wishful thinking, I would say. As the 1v3, if anything, gonna try and force out the Realm Warp where they can vanish. But in the top lane, Zach's gonna now try and see if he can take down Shin. We've seen it once before. Is it gonna happen again? A little bit of a miss in that engagement. Does look to go for the Devour to knock him into an opposite side. Has the shield. Shin attempting to still go through this 1v1. Doesn't have the damage from the minions as well to assist. So you're gonna see him actually get out scot-free as there is a rotation now onto this bot side towards where the Dragon is, but they're not gonna take that either. Shin now in the position that they could potentially dive onto this, and Zach's gotta bail.
Yeah, Zach here on the Tom Ken, she can take those trades if it's an all-in, but as soon as you stop committing to the fight, one of you has insane amounts of lifesteal in their kit, and they're just going to be back to full HP in a moment's time. And the other is going to walk away wounded underneath their own turret. The next thing I want to see here happen is Butler has to close it out. Yes, they've got themselves the lead. They're up 3-1 in Dragons, 4-0 in turrets. They're able to take these structures down. But the hallmark of a great team is not how many times they kill you. It's not how many total turrets they get, how many Barons they take. It's how quickly do they destroy your actual Nexus. That's the objective. And if you take too long to do it, you give more and more opportunities for the enemy team to pick you off, to come back. And all things considered, League of Legends is a game with a hard cap on it. At some point, everyone's level 18 with 6 items. Never supports. Sorry, I misspoke. They never get 6 items.
Yeah, they never get there.
Ever.
I mean,
they never hit level 18 either. Even 70-minute games. They're still just buying control wards as their 4th slot in their inventory. All right, I'm a little salty, but
it's okay. Unless you're me as Vel'Koz and you just go straight 6 items, but we digress.
Yeah, as they're digressing into the death chamber, and with the jungler gone, this is going to be Baron. They've got all 5 members looking at the Baron. You see Graves inching towards it as well, just to get a little bit more security around it. Voltage so tanky, you can just sit on this for forever. Smite Steal not available because Tyler's in the jungle, but maybe they'll look for a fight.
You've got a little bit of an opportunity here. Shin's separated, but does have the collateral damage to try and force him back. Also disengaging just slightly, but still actually surviving. Shin comes out in the back, managing to recover. Now the Tom Kent from Zach up front has to force the shield with a flash over the wall as you've got the onslaught of shadows over just that edge to see if they can lock it down. There's the Realm Warp to collapse near the side bush. And you've got Levi coming and cleaning it up as now they cycle back, they clear the wards, and they're going to look to grab this Baron.
Oh, so rough. The Misfortune was barely off its mark, and a few of those spells were not stacked properly, but super hard to do when you're playing on your back foot, too. But nice try from Marquette. All things considered, trying to kill a 2-item Graves with Mercury Treads, maybe a tall order. Is there maybe going to try and pick off Tyler? He has to flash.
Oh no, they're going to lock him down. I mean, to be fair, it's these subtle misplays. The fact that you had the early takedown from the Glacial Fisher over towards where that bush is by Raptors, leading and eliminating the support, just put them in a very uncomfortable position. If that was a full 5 and didn't have that early loss just before going into the Baron, this would have been a very different engagement.
Truly. And now you can see a bounties on almost every member of Butler, which means the only way back in this is, of course, if you get that team fight wipe. It could be a massive swing of gold, but I don't think 10,000 was really available for
No.
that turnaround. No, and a minute again towards that soul. And now with 5 members wearing purple, they'll also be able to have those additional combat stats that are on top of the 10,000 gold lead to make sure they secure this insane soul available to them. I don't know. There's actually Shin alone in the side lane. Now would be an opportunity to maybe just force for it. They'd have to walk through all that vision in the jungle.
I mean, at this point, Shin has been really the only one that they've managed to take advantage of on multiple occasions. It hasn't been a significant amount, but every time it's been where Shin plays a little bit aggressive and maybe out of position. So if they want to try and find it again here, once again, you see that there could potentially 3 that collapse onto Shin, but there are still many in close proximity from Mojo along with Voltade.
Yeah, and when you find those windows of opportunity, even onto one member on the side, you have to pull the trigger instantly. You can see Mike has that idea in his head as he was willing to walk at the Graves in the side lane just as that AD carry, but it's going to be up to Geeked Bro and Zach to be the engagers if Snickers can't find the perfect flank.
I mean, crying Zoe emote coming out here from Zach in the top lane, knowing that there's no ability to do so, but a Glacial Fisher comes out onto Geek, trying to see if they can get the stand behind me to keep them alive, as you've got a TP coming in just over by the blue buff, as you've got the Onslaught of Shadows coming in with a bullet time across the front line position. Mike's got a bail, gets taken down by Carthago, looking to try and re-engage, gets the double tap onto Zach as he's not able to proc the shield in time, collapsing up the funnel, looking for the chase onto Tyler. Double kill here for the Lucian play of Carthago as a Rampage comes out, almost an entire ace as they push this bot lane to open up the inhibitor.
And they'll push for the victory here in game 1 of this best of 3. This is what we expected to see from Butler. Just non-stop aggression, able to find it and moving as a unit. This team in cohesive fashion going to clean this game 1 up. And look at that, 3-1 12 score. We talked and hyped up Mojoroma before this game, and clearly he's up to snuff with that kill line. 15 out of 17 kill participation is nothing to scoff at.
I mean, goodness me. I mean, what a very, very confident play coming out from Butler. Again, those couple of exchanges there in favor of Marquette, but none ever able to hold enough value or agency for them to swing it back in their favor. So, we said at the start, Marquette's looking to take a game here. Game 1. Definitely have to really look at the drawing board and see how they can change this up to try and shut it down, because that bot lane has so much going for them from Butler.
Yeah, I think it was attractive because I have to say Marquette actually was winning asterisks the bottom lane 2v2 because they were finding double knock-up grand entrances, beautiful engaged. Snickers was playing out of his mind. Of course, credit to his AD carry too. They were putting out the damage, but the difference in champions meant you put up the Unbreakable. Misfortune's now a non-threat, and Lucian can do whatever he wants with Brahm's passive. That's literally how it played out. It wasn't getting outplayed or outmaneuvered in its entirety. We can speak to the effect of Mojoromo being a little bit more on the map as a support than his counterpart in Snickers, but that could be fixed too, and it didn't really change the game. So I want to see the draft get adjusted a little bit more for Marquette, because I think they pigeonholed themselves too much into the early game. They picked the Tahm Kench really early, which means you're sacking the top lane or whatever lane, whoever they put into the Tahm Kench. It's just a farm fest. It's a snooze fest. We're just swimming suits shy of a wet noodle fight, right? It's not going to change at all. So as far as one side of the map goes, nothing will change and it's even forever. Which means by design, half the map is going to just scale for late. And by late, I mean at least the mid game where things will get interesting. If that's the case, play into that a little bit more. You're going to have a meat shield in front of you, so you don't need to play into full all-in burst like the Kiana, and having kind of the Lilia does a lot of the same, right? You land asleep and then you try and burst them out as you wake them up. I want to see more of a front-to-back team comp, right? It's similar to what Butler drafted. And I think actually, from what I saw in this game, I know it was a rough loss for Marquette, but I saw what I wanted to see out of bot lane, out of trying to play through the top as often as they could. The 1v1s were great, right? We saw the Tom solo killing. I want to see more of that front-to-back team comp, and I think if Marquette just believe in themselves a little bit more on the front-to-back full 5v5 team fight composition, there's a world wherein Marquette could take a game off a couple clean team fights. I really, truly believe that.
And I want to piggyback off that a little bit too, because the word confidence really stuck out to me. because when you talk about the roster or the lineup that Marquette had, with the way that they have played previously against these other, very quality-driven teams that are in that upper ranking, the games have been faster. So Marquette potentially having that mindset of let's try and play the early game, because it seems that if they start to get to that mid game where they really start to snowball because of their game mechanics and also their sheer skill that we've seen from some of these lanes, it's not so unheard of to think of it as in like, let's try and take the early game. But you do still make a very valid point of where it's like now once it starts to trickle into that position where if they've managed to at least keep par, which they did for a good majority of the beginning part of the game, like even though you did have Butler take some early advantage, Marquette still had those moments where it was very proficient for them to try and keep that gap at a very marginal distance. They didn't lose out just yet on their bottom line. But at this point, once it gets into that, I agree with you that they need something of this boost in morale and confidence to take a type of team fight that really can work for them, because I would agree there is a world that Marquette could in these team fights take advantage of it, because even when it came to those couple opportunities of where they did get into the team fight, they were always behind. They either had somebody down or they weren't close enough to get back into the engagement, so they were taking a 5 versus 4. So when you're in that spot and you're still doing as well as you're doing against a team like Butler, you got to give credit to yourself for that.
Credit where credit is due. And I want to touch on something more that you just mentioned, Red, because I agree. There is something to be said for Marquette saying, hey, we've been in the frying pan for 2 weeks here. Strength of the schedule has not been in our favor. We're playing the top 3 teams back to back. It's really rough. So what do? We shake things up. Maybe we try for that early game composition. I know I said I want to see them go for full team fight because I believe in them, but I also see what you're saying. And I think if they're going to stay with that strategy, playing the early game and trying to win by saying, hey, out of frying into the fire, we're just going to cut the gas off from the get-go, right? We're not going to let you start rolling. We're not even going to let you breathe. If they're going to do that strategy, then Snickers on his Thresh, literally it wasn't banned in game 1. And I think that was a mistake by Butler, and less so, but a mistake as well by Marquette to not pick it up. If you've ever seen Snickers play Thresh, unlike the series we saw earlier today, literally never misses on a death sentence. And it's its namesake. Every hook that lands is a death sentence for his target. And he's not hooking a Braum. He never does. He waits for the Unbreakable to go down. He waits for the Braum to move out of the way if that's the matchup. And he lands the hook on like the Lucian in that scenario. And I've seen it time and again in the Big East Conference. Snickers can play that champion. And even though he might be like lower rank than Mojo Romo, somehow he's just magnetic on Thresh. And I would love to see that, not just for the bot lane 2v2, but specifically because, like I described for game 1, he could just abandon the MF and roam. Didn't see that in game 1, but maybe on the Thresh he'd be more comfortable to do that because it's a comfort pick for him. Maybe. I want to see more of that. I want to see Snickers just take over the game with a pick like that if they're going to play for the early game.
Well, because we've seen that so much more now, where basically the supports for some time now have just been able to leave the 1v1 in the bot lane, and they can. But the other thing that's also interesting is the amount of times that Butler had rotated. It wasn't just like where you had like a swap from one of the lanes. It was Rise to top, Rise to bot, Graves to mid, Graves to bot, Graves to top, and then Lucian Braum top, then moved with Braum into their overall movement and just like a well-oiled machine and knowing how to make these swaps and rotations was crazy. And that is like a mental play onto Marquette. They're like, who are we going to be going into now every potential back?
Yeah, hard to get those lane assignments when they're swapping so much, and it's always Butler setting the tempo. So if you're not going to be able to match that with, I don't know, crazy deep vision that would somehow see those recalls in some of the lane swaps in the first 10 minutes, then just draft a little bit with that in mind. It remains to be seen if they'll be able to find that kind of success. Again, either they go all in on this early game strategy, or they try and scale for late and do a team fight. I want to see that second one.
I mean, we'll be seeing it shortly, but we're going to be heading to a brief break before getting that underway, so don't go anywhere, friends, because we're curious to see if we've got Marquette managing to pull through and be able to take us to a third game, or it'll be another easy shutout for a 2-0 score. Welcome back, friends. We are here for another game between Marquette and Butler. Swap of sides, and hopefully some new strategies to come into this, as we are going to have Butler looking to try and see if they can close it out 2-0. We'd start the day off already with one. We could have a second before maybe even a third later on after this match, but we got to stay at the task at hand. I am Rich Rat here with Superman, as we are going to give this amazing draft here in just a moment to see if there is any adjustments, and maybe we'll even see that Thresh be tossed into the mix to change that bot lane advantage.
Please, Rich, I want to see it. Snickers just is beautiful on that champion, and they're gonna immediately ban away the Hecarim. That's important. Voltaire's been playing it a lot throughout the Big East tournament so far this fall. Taking that early away, and then of course a strong powerhouse pick from bottom. I'm not really understanding too much the picks from Butler. They must
the Rumble
really...
Auction, yeah,
like I don't know these to be like crazy OTP picks for either Geek Bro or Zach. And then you let through something with insane strength and priority like Kennen, somebody who can actually beat the Graves in lane if played correctly. Oh, disgusting. Okay, dang. One of those champions that can actually just 1v9 the entire video.
I mean, this is lightning fast pickups right now, too, when we're talking about this selection. I mean, Trundle does have a lot of value when it comes to the mobility across map. Echo as well, having that resets and positioning across for roams. You've got Cassidy now coming out from Butler, again, having that high mobility. I really, really need to see some point and click. If I do not see a Nautilus in this lineup from either of these, I would be extremely surprised.
Yeah, where's Season 3 Tark, right? Like, you just get that point and clicky, something that you can't miss, a stun. Something has to lock down not just the Cassidy that they've already showed, but the Kayn as well. I mean, it's like if a team picks Master Yi first pick, you have to just draft a million crowd control, and then they are useless. But I don't see it just yet. I mean, Pillar is nice, but it's not going to do too much when people can go through or over walls. Okay. Yeah, the Yuumi gonna get stolen away, and not just Yuumi, anyone. It's Yuumi Ezreal, the classic bottom lane, and it's gonna be definitely a champion much harder to pick off with these assassins like Kayn and Kassadin. But the Sona, I actually have seen her fall way out of priority recently, but I think she's still strong, and in particular, insanely strong with the Lucian.
Yeah.
Similar to Nami, she buffs him just by putting an aura around the heal or the Q, and even the speed up from her auras, the Q, W, and E. Each one of those will add 2 stacks of the Light Slinger bonus passive to Lucian, and that stacks up to 4 in his bank. So you can spam heal and Q very quickly for a very quick trade, where 4 autos then from Carthago are going to have bonus magic damage. It can be deceptively bursty in that 2v2 bottom lane, and especially against now a single target, right? The Yumi's just attached. You're putting all that damage into a single source. It's going to be kind of scary coming through. It is curious to me that you see the Exhaust and Ignite both on the Yuumi. Normally you would see, okay, there may be swapping here. Normally you'd see the Exhaust on the AD carry and a heal instead coming from Yuumi, because she's likely, well, I'll back off that point in a moment, likely to build some shield heal power, which gives additional power to that summoner spell. I back off that point a little bit though, because you can go full AP as as many ARAM players will know. There is a terror out there that tales have been told of the Luden's Echo rush into Horizon Focus Yuumi, who, if you get hit by an empowered prowling projectile, it takes like half of your health away. And you would never have expected that kind of damage to come through. Maybe they're doubling up on the Exhaust. That'll be interesting as long as they don't actually double up using it. It may give that additional security away from dying to Kayn or Cassidy, or of course in the 2v2 the Lucian, because I said Deceptive Burst. What takes that away? Definitely Exhaust.
I mean, and you know, to expand even further, we focused a lot on that support part of it, which is again the Yuumi being a very big pickup here, which we've seen consistently in the band or in a team that is very dominant with it. But at this point, Marquette has a position to really claim dominance because of the value that Yuumi can bring. But I want to cycle back all the way to the first initial pick that you commented on when letting the Kennen through. I mean, you have a superior hard engage where we've seen run rampant in some of the world's play, where you just go straight AP. And honestly, you just need that Zonias of where you're the engager. Like, that's it. Like, you go in, you find the stun. Granted, I mean, Kassadin has a little bit more of an opportunity to evade out of it. Same thing with the Lucian Dash, Sona having that movement speed. But, like, if you can get those couple of key lockdowns with that heavy mobility into the stun, there is a lot that you can do, especially if maybe you get a really slick pillar that comes out by Tyler to block a choke point in the jungle. Your positioning is going to be so imperative for Marquette to find this type of value and just basically nuke everything in the area of effect. Pillar's going to come through. You're going to have Maelstrom. You're going to have the Yuumi crowd control up front with that ultimate itself, and Echo just pops if finding the value. So, I mean, there's a lot really riding on this team fight that they can really get and work with in the long haul here, and I really do kind of like it. Again, it's that high risk, high reward that I think still fits their goal points against this team like Butler.
And you mentioned it, a high risk, high reward, but I also think they've done a great job of drafting like an insurance policy here.
Yes.
You got the Yuumi who can attach to any one of those other 4 targets, right? The Ezreal for just the classic poke play with Ezreal's kit, or if Geekbro happens to find an angle where he gets a couple of kills early, he's now an assassin, an AP assassin. You put Yuumi on that guy, he's super fast too with his passive and the zoomies. He's going to find additional kills and be a super threat. If it's Tyler who gets a couple of kills, or even just a single one, he gets his
Just
mythic.
put the Yuumi on Tyler.
Well, you can.
Put it on Tyler's.
What do you do when there's a Trundle who can walk at you super fast on his frozen throne, and also the pillar, and then you get locked down with the final chapter? Yeah, like you can't run away from that. It's actually the stuff of nightmares. Or of course, top lane too. You were describing this Kennen who can team fight fantastically. You don't even need, the cool thing about having the Yuumi is you don't need now to flank. You literally just speed up the Kennen who can go full AP. Hourglass Schmourglass, dude. He's gonna just burst you 100-0 when you have no crowd control on your team outside of Sona ult. Like, I actually would like to see Kennen just build Death Cap second. To heck with building any sort of hourglass or defensive items. He can 100-0 this squishy lineup from Butler and take us straight into game 3. The curious thing about Marquette here, if they win, it's gonna be in like 26 minutes or less. Like, it's gonna be so fast because they're just gonna wipe these team fights. What Butler's comp says to me is, if it goes to 35,
we
run
done
for the hills.
Yeah, we done.
Yeah.
They just gotta outlast. They just gotta outlast.
That is the plan.
I mean, it's not a bad plan here. And again, that's one of those things where we talked about the early game focus where, you know, Marquette wants to invest their resources, and it's something that can be done here. If they take that quick advantage early, they will find themselves in a very strong position, as we do now actually look where the line of scrimmage is for all of these. Going to focus on the bot lane here as you've got the reverse side. So it's going to be red buff for Bolt to start as they'll roam towards their respective counter sides. So you'll have that Kayn presence in the bot lane and potentially Trundle up top to give that early lead to that Kennen play.
Indeed, a little bit of vision just to see where there might be a leash. Won't give perfect information, especially now that Tyler knows it's there. Their delay getting to bottom lane may give that still information over to Butler to let them know that they leashed for red buff. But all things considered, what I want to see here from Marquette is, let's bully out Levi. He's Kassadin. He's completely melee. Geekbro can engage at will, and yes, it'll be mitigated by the magic damage shield. Of course, Kassadin's kind of like that anti-mage. But what do you do if you put a pillar behind Levi? Even with his flash, he's going to be slowed. He's not locked down. And Tyler and Geekbro, with their movement speed, can just run him down. I want to see them pressure this out, because that's one of the main win conditions for Butler, is getting Kassadin out of lane. And for the entirety of the laning phase, you have an opportunity to punish that.
Yeah, pre-6 is also extremely critical before you get that mobility. Again, you're going to see some trades coming through in bot lane as well. As we take a look at it, you've got that damage there. Constantly just going to top off and shield Mike to make sure that there is no problem getting in and out of these engagements. And honestly, it's really just, I think, going to be a patient play for engagements until you have those junglers able to give agency to each one of these lanes.
True. Bottom lane is just a snooze fest for now. Here's maybe that gank that I was saying you want to see happen in mid lane. You can see Tyler kind of shadowing there with double buffs.
Yeah, Levi, if they continue to press forward, which they are, Butler now needs to be careful. Levi acknowledging that Tyler is here, gets the pillar. Beautiful placement. They're stuck in the corner. Levi cannot escape. And those are the types of placements you're going to need for Marquette to bring this to a game 3.
Yeah, that pillar was filthy. Pinning Levi against the wall. Levi kind of overstaying too, as he's going to have to teleport pretty aggressively back into mid lane. And I want to just see him again. Repeat gank. You already have prio for this bottom scuttle. You should probably be fine. And maybe you can pick up a second quick kill here onto the Kassadin. Remember, Kassadin still held his flash, so it's unlikely he'll die again in the short term. But there's always that hope if you're a fan of Marquette.
And you can see now that there is a grouping towards that bottom position. It's securing that they will get the Scuttle Crab for the vision as Sona is going to rotate up towards that middle perspective, just because, again, you want to make sure that you've got intel on the Trundle just in case they take the reverse side, but there is going to be 3 into the mid lane. But Echo from Geeked is so under the tower, they're really not going to be able to gain anything. And honestly, both Kane and Sona going to give high mobility up to this Scuttle so that they can actually take it before the Trundle from Tyler.
Yeah, they commit Mojo Romo up here. You can see Carthago's in trouble in a 1v2, but he's sacrificing just a little bit of farm and pressure on the bottom side of the map because they already secured that scuttle to send multiple members up into the river, and that means Trundle's just going to have to recall down both scuttles. The double scuttle, great there for Voltade.
That's going to allow that great advantage to try and equalize here. Having that extra 12 CS, trying to slow down potentially the Trundles, lead with the assist in the mid lane for that gold management. Again, they're still about even, but it's slightly in favor of Marquette with Dragon coming up in 30 seconds. So they do have some great vision in the bot lane from Butler already in try in that side bush and also the scuttle as well. So they are clean to see if there's any engagement that's going to come through with Tyler, who can clear that out extremely fast.
Yes, and that's hopefully what they're going to have to do if Butler wants to contest this Dragon, because you mentioned it's coming up in a amount, but 10 seconds. Look at the push here on bottom lane. It's a huge wave. Carthago can't leave that without missing out on just so much golden experience. Despite a little bit of vision still there for Butler, it's all expiring. They committed all that additional resource and vision towards the top side to get the double scuttle, which means it's all expiring here. You can see pings coming out from Marquette. They're going to want to go for this because they have Trundle on this bottom side of the map. An early mountain is not really going to change the tides of early game much, but it's nice to pick that up quickly to, again, try and win this game in like 26 minutes or less. You want to do that by stacking up these dragons super quickly and early.
Yep, every minor buff that can put you in a better position early in the game will be something that you can hold your hat on. As you've got now Snicker going to rotate back down towards the bottom position. Tyler now needing to be careful, though, as you do have Voltade with that Kane positioning, trying to see if they can maybe come in to steal it away, but no, it's going to be secured by Marquette, and Tyler's just going to drop to bottom as Voltade is not going to be able to get any sort of value here.
Well, they get it. It was a little spooky for a moment there with multiple members for Butler inching towards the river, but ultimately they were fine, as now multiple members in bottom fighting.
Snicker detaches here for the moment, allowing a couple of shots to come back on, regaining positioning again to try and maximize that mana consumption as they do look to back quickly so that they could go for their first buy. You're almost going to see the Spell Thieves completed from both ends, but again, still making sure that they do come back with a couple of control wards. Meanwhile, Tyler in the mid lane, you're going to see a nice force out here. Flash is gone early and often, not going to want to get, like we talked about earlier about Graves in the top lane or Rise in the top lane.
Yeah, and it's smart to get that flash. What happened bottom lane, though, I want to mention, it was just a bit of a disrespect, if not a misplay from the side of Marquette. They should have known Carthago and Mojo Romo would be coming back with a purchase, meaning they're head and shoulders in combat power ahead of their counterparts. And with that in mind, they need to bring the Trundle after that dragon fight, or a dragon take, excuse me, to push in the wave so that they can safely recall. But instead, they got caught on the back end. They didn't actually die, but they lose both Ignite and Exhaust from the Yuumi, which means now, even when they're even in items, they don't really have a window to fight.
Quickly just take a look across the board. You can see the top lane in and of itself still maintaining between the two of them. A couple of cookies still stacked up here for Shin, so could look for an opportunity to try and harass a little bit more once pressing forward and having a really great clear and still getting some decent chip damage onto Zach too.
Yeah, and hopefully he's able to continue to make that damage stick. He's got the Vampiric Scepter and, of course, like you mentioned, the Biscuits, so he should have the sustain advantage. But when he's pushed up this far to the turret, and you can see Trundle's very close, if it weren't for that vision, you would think Shin's in a very scary situation where he could just get pillared into a full channel of ultimate from, like, Zach, and they may actually be going for precisely that. You see him moving up that way.
There's also some hard shove into the mid lane to allow a little bit of roam here from Geeked, but doesn't actually look to commit to it. He's going to cycle back down towards the middle position, a little bit undecided on where they want to go to just because of that acknowledgement of the vision too. You can see that Tyler recognized it, so Geeked is just going to look to try and stick towards that middle lane and continue to harass, but you do have now Levi at that +6 level, so they have a lot more roam capability.
Yeah, speaking of +6, as soon as the ultimate's unlocked from Yuumi, you expect to see him detach and go join someone else on the map, give, like Mike, one of the safest 80 carries in the Ezreal, can just kind of sit back. But starting this Herald was a little aggressive, not having like a fourth member come out. But you see, Mojo Romo's already there, so it's a 4v3 in favor of Butler in this river.
Yeah, and it's going to reset because they didn't have much vision on where Voltade was, so knowing that they've got that numbers advantage here from Butler up top, they really can't commit into that to try and see if they can get the last few moments onto the Herald, so it's just going to reset as now a committance actually is going to come through by Butler. They've managed to take the space, they've got the wards, and they have the assists with the Sona from bot lane to grab it.
Yeah, it's the rotation of the Sona from bot lane that really makes the difference for them here. And instead of answering it with the Yuumi, which is really hard to do, honestly, because you have to float all the way up there very slowly without boots. Instead, they're going to trade plates for it. And as long as they get 2 plates, maybe 3, then it's pretty close to an even trade, all things considered. They were able, very fantastically, to bully Carthago away from the wave as well. So Carthago misses out on, he's now down 2, almost 3 full waves of gold and at least 1 full wave of experience. That is a win for Marquette, despite giving up and not dying, credit to them, not dying to give up the Herald on the top side of the map. So a bit of a trade, and I think it's relatively even for both teams.
Almost gets the 3rd play, gonna fall short here, but again, still, like you said, gaining the value necessary as you do have Kane posturing towards that bottom position. Dragon's up in about 1 minute for them to get that Fire Drake, as you can already see Tyler in this bottom lane looking to see if they can try and get the advantage onto Carthago, being the only one there. Might even have a dive possibility, but Mojo is close along with Voltade coming from the flank. Culling comes out onto Mike. Beautiful pillar to try and slow it down, but there's still a 4-stack versus 3. The TP comes in onto the minion in the backside, managing to give some assistance. You've got high aggression with the cannon, coming out with a Maelstrom, getting Mojo super low, but there's a takedown onto Mike. An even trade for 1-for-1. Zac now having to fall back a little bit, needing to be careful since they are at the half health, as there is a pickup onto Mojo. Geeked also rotating in, all 5 soon to come to this bottom position as Shin cannot escape under the turret. Tyler getting boosted by the Yuumi play, and Snickers manages to help get this into their favor.
Marquette coming up huge. It's 4-1 now on the map for the side of the underdogs in this. Let's take a look at this again. You see, like Mike's out of mana. He couldn't actually shift forward, get the root onto Carthago. They went a little too deep, so they get teleported on, and then he's just trying his darndest to stay alive. And that means, for a moment, things will carry for Marquette. But because of the advantage they have from their solo lanes, you had the slicing Maelstrom lock people down, but here into the Dragon fight, things are looking a little scary.
Ooh, needs to be careful again. Tyler super low, has to try and get it low enough for the smite, manages to get it with 1, but there's still a couple of HP remaining for Voltade to take it away with their smite, and they're going to be able to get out with the dragon, as that is a now 1-for-1.
7 HP on that Drake, man.
Yep, I know, right?
So bad as a jungler, especially when you're already like out jungling your opponent for the time being, and you miss out on just that one. Would have liked to see bot lane shoved out more so that they have more of that prio. Like Mike could be there to not let Voltade get so close, but they don't lose any members for it. It's just a steal, right? Thanks for the leash, says Butler, and they walk away. But now you can see for that brief moment, we once again saw Snickers detach, look for another target, and I want to see him actually spending more time on Geeked Bro. Zooming around the map together in 2v1 situations like we're about to see.
Meanwhile, in the mid lane, though, you're going to have the Rift Herald managing to get a couple of plates. There's a takedown from Geek Bro, managing to get the damage necessary, but rotating to the top. Tyler's going to get that flank that we were talking about just before we transitioned with it. Also now going to the bot lane. We're continuing to jump lane to lane to find the advantages, but the bot lane is not going to have an execution. Mid and top will, and it's a nice even trade 1-for-1.
Yeah, but it's all Marquette getting the wins on the map. You can see they're playing aggressive in bottom lane. They got a kill 1v2 for Geeked Bro in mid. And then top, they 2v1 and take down the Graves. And look at this. Even more great trades from Geeked Bro. The stars are aligning here for Marquette if they can take this game and run with it.
I mean, at this point, it's pre-26 minutes. That's what we're looking for the seesaw to swap sides here.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as much as they would love an FF15, I don't think the game will end so much sooner than that 26-minute mark. And that's like a ballpark figure I threw out because that's about when you would see the earliest soul possibility.
Yeah.
They lost that second Drake, which really boils that down a little bit further.
Speaking of boiling, the pot's going to maybe overflow as Mike gets hit, but there comes the Yuumi ultimate from Snickers, gets the nice stun at the root as you still have Mike surviving. Beautiful flank coming in by Geek Bro, reading the situation. True shot barrage gets at least Voltaire. A double kill comes out, and this is Marquette playing so well and in a prime position to take a game away from Butler.
Well, this is just insane to see the amount of aggression we're seeing in Game 2 versus what we saw in Game 1 from Marquette. Marquette just looking like a wounded animal in Game 1, not able to find their stride. But here in Game 2, they are pressing every single advantage they've found, trying to race for first turret here as they do secure it, even against the Herald coming through in mid lane. Not able to find much more. And man, I'm impressed by what I'm seeing from Marquette. They're really keeping their head on their shoulders and looking for more. Geek Bro, 5, 0, and 3, finding more on the map.
I mean, again, and Butler kind of letting their guard down a little bit. I feel like they're, allowing themselves to get comfortable, and you can't do that, especially when you have a composition like Marquette in what they drafted in this and how confident they've been playing it. I mean, Tyler, from the get-go, has been just snowballing in these lanes to give assistance to this Echo, who's got a now 5-0-3 lead. Cannon, even though it's not a stack full of kills, have given enough assistance onto the Graves that they are managing to stack it up. They've got so much value with their Slicing Maelstrom, with these TPs that have been very ideal and have really given a lot more support into the bot lane, which was struggling to a certain degree at the start.
Yeah, and Voltaire hasn't been able to find an angle to be involved in much of this either. An Arcane Shift forward is aggressive.
It is very aggressive, but there is some nice assistance here. I'm looking to back out. I mean, honestly, Shin, I don't think is really confident to try and compete against this, as we are going to get a pause here for the moment, and gonna just give them a moment to see what that complication is. But I mean, as we take a pulse of this, Marquette really turned in the tides like we actually had earlier from Georgetown, where it was going against Villanova, and it was like game 2, totally different thing. Same thing here, totally different thing.
Hopefully it stays a totally different thing, because despite things, the tune kind of changing in our earlier series today, it still ended up being the 2-0 very quick. I think there is a much better chance for Marquette to continue this aggression and actually close out this game and bring us to a game 3. What it looks like to me is moving the Trundle, who's strong, definitely winning the jungle matchup right now, and Echo, who's way accelerated beyond the Caston at this point in the game. You have to close out the game. Using those two champions with the leads that they have, Cassidon's a non-factor. Every time he shows up somewhere, he's basically just a cannon minion, getting a little bit of burst damage, but then stands still. Well, what can he do? Kayn has not been able to find any point of aggression either.
No, not at all. As it looks like we're going to have a slight bug here at the moment as we're waiting to get back into the game as the pause resumes. But with that being said, we still just get this lovely exchange here where top lane is our focus. And Trundle, if this does continue, Tyler is going to be able to come up for the flank.
That would be it, right? It's a 3v2 situation as we come back online.
Looking to see if they can nice pillar again. Shin going to be able to move around and have the extra movement speed and the damage boost here to potentially try and switch it over. You've got some nice healing and has to flash out, but just a second late, as that's going to be them taking another one on the top lane.
Nice pick up there. That brings the score to 10-1. You would think it would be a lot more explosive, but 4,000 gold lead separates these two teams at this point in time. Might be even a little more as they put some more damage into that top lane turret with that kill they just picked up. Nice. I like this movement too, to not stop and give any breathing room. They're going to try and go for that Herald too, since they need to break these turrets down. Once the turrets are gone, where do you run from? The only reason that Carthago didn't die there too is because he had a turret. Look at that. He has to flash away towards a turret. Imagine if these outers are gone. There's nowhere to hide from Butler.
Yeah. I mean, and again, that's just from the quick engagement from Geek Bro, getting out scot-free, not losing any health, not even having to pop a potion. Now in a little bit of an unfavorable position, but you're going to see Voltaire not even commit to this because they know that there is that rotation from Tyler to give some assistance, and it's not a confident pick as they move towards this Drake.
Yeah, Drake's up, and both teams are collecting their members near here. You can see Shin's on the top side. He's going to be able to shove that in before teleporting in. But honestly, what do? They got Herald pop mid that's going to not entirely break the turret, I don't think. It'll be close. but they buy time to now pick up the Drake. And their prize for this will be the Cloud Drake and the damage they got in mid, which is just a sliver of health from dying. But they're trading that now for damage top because they committed to have Zach walk to this dragon rather than stay up there and TP after the fact.
Yeah, Shin managing to push really hard, getting the turret is helping at least to a degree. As now you have a little bit of a divide here. You're going to have Levi have to bail out of this. There goes the turret as well in mid lane. Geeked looks to move in. So they got the they got a turret each, but the Drake is going to go into their favor, and they still had the Rift Herald pop to give pressure there to give them that space. So all in all, Marquette's just still always coming out ahead.
Yep, they are getting a little bit more for their trouble everywhere they go so far. And I like that a lot of their gold is on those key members. I mentioned that any one of them can be an insurance policy for the Yuumi, and right now there's a lot of great options for that. Your Trundle is tanky enough to actually walk forward and be strength in front, and your Echo absolutely has kill threat on pretty much any one of Butler's team members. And with the Yuumi on top of that, it only augments those two capabilities of Marquette. And to their credit, the Kennen has found some good ultimates, despite getting exhausted in every fight he's been in. And then, of course, Ezreal, 2-1 and 2. He's completing his core items. He's putting out the damage where he needs to when he has the Yuumi, setting him up for success.
And as we do evaluate, looking to see where they're going to be, this is honestly just going to be a lot of slow play because Butler has to try and drag this out as long as they can to recover, because with how well Marquette has played this early game into this middle game, trying to complete their items, I mean, you have basically almost every mythic available for Marquette as they get so much damage onto Carthago. Even goes for the True Shot. Barrage does manage to escape it and also evade the pillar for the time being. And now they're going to rotate and collapse here onto not only Voltade, but also trying to potentially find Shin if they rotate heavily with all three.
Yeah, Shin might be in trouble if he doesn't immediately back.
Oh, Shin's just going to go into that push. That's a risky play, as you've got the cannon now rotating from Zach, and I mean, they're actually going to respect it. They're going to go straight for the turret here.
Yeah, this is nice. They, with the next wave, which is a cannon wave, they should have the additional pressure to actually fight this turret, maybe take it actually fully down, which is the next objective for them on the map, right? Dragon, the next one is 3 minutes away. Everything you should be doing is near or at the top side of this map. And they're doing that. Look, they're taking away all the camps and bullying them away from vision, which gives them the breathing room they need to perhaps threaten that dive. So they're sitting on some vision. And at this point, they will miss out on some golden experience on the bottom side of the map because they didn't fully commit. I would have liked to see them actually just die. Yeah. You've got the Yuumi. Yes, the Graves is playing like he's aggro, but it's a bit of a bluff, right? He's got the shield bow, which gives him some survivability, but against 4 fed members, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, I'm concerned a little bit about some of the passiveness that's coming out from Marquette. I mean, again, they want to try and keep their objectives. You know, there was a spam worth of pings into the bot lane to acknowledge that they want to keep this objective up. But if they start to recede too much in the way that they've been playing, I feel like that's going to be the window for Butler to be able to reclaim this and start turning it back into their favor.
It could. It absolutely could. This is the toughest part of League of Legends for teams that get ahead early. 10-1 is a fantastic lead. 2 turrets now evened up to 2, but they were up for quite a minute there. And the next one on the map is the outer in top, or you try and pressure the mid. You really have to be clear with your team and have practiced lane assignments at this point. To their credit, what Marquette is doing properly is moving as 2 to 3 members through the enemy jungle, sealing away the camps, and also rotating between these turrets. But you need to recognize, okay, what is the next certain objective we're going for? Like Dragon in a minute from now, if that is what they want to go for. Cloud, the second one of the game, haha, worst soul. Yeah, we made that point before. Unfortunate for them that they don't get something more. What they need is to decide, is it more important to us to threaten Baron or take the next Drake? Is Drake important enough to commit 3 to 4 members, or just like the jungler to solo it because they're in such a strong position? Looks like to me they've set up a lot of vision around Dragon. That means it should be soloable. There should be no reason why they need to send 5 people to pick up a Drake when they've got 3 control wards doing a holy trinity around it. Like, it's super safe. So at this point, I want to see them diving that Graves. Go pick him off. He's alone or being shadowed at best by an 0-3 Kayn who's done nothing on the map. Send 4 members to go kill them. Get more on the top side while you get Dragon for free.
Yeah, and Voltate even earlier, as you can see that the timer on its flash has, gained back at least a quarter of the way, but instant flash in the jungle. They are basically fearful to see anybody from Marquette because they cannot risk being picked off and losing this value. Like right now, it's going to be Voltate getting locked down in the stun. Zach comes in, finds two. You've got that shield bow, getting that protective barrier, but it won't last long as you continue to see Zach chasing it down, forces the flash. There's the movement by the swap of the Yumi on top, and there is a double kill here for Zach. And you're even going to see this focus from Marquette onto Dragon, now with the third, leading to the Dragon Soul, and you're going to even have Geeks go in hard for this takedown again. Does get slowed underneath the turret and barely evades. Levi escapes with their life.
What I want to see from Marquette, maybe not the flash for nothing at the end there, but send multiple members top, get a few kills, shut them down, extra turret damage while you get the Drake for free. There's no way they could answer. Maybe Levi would have been cheeky and stolen away if Tyler was alone instead of having Geek Bro as backup, like I had asked for earlier, but what that meant after the fact was you put additional pressure on Levi. You already won the fight top. Yes, you got the dragon free, and now you steal away something like that blue buff. It's nice. Take all the advantages you can, everywhere you can, so that you can close this out. Now that they've taken that third outer, inners will be next, and hopefully the Nexus from there if you're a fan of Marquette.
22 minutes in. We start to grow near more so of that completion of the third item realm in some cases, as you see a lot being completed. They got the Zonias as well from the cannon, which is going to just give... I know you wanted the Rabadon's death cap, but they decided to still go the traditional Zonias for them to make sure that they've got that sustainability and an engagement that could go south. With the Baron now looking to try and be pressured on TP. He's going to come in. They've got vision from the Scryer's lens up top, as you do have Shin looking to try and rotate down. TP going to come in now as well. So this is a 5 versus 5. Looks for the engagement up to the side. Nice route here onto the Yumi. They do have this follow through. Getting a shutdown would be critical onto Mojo. That's the early snowball necessary. No longer having the utility of the movement, and it's a 5 versus 4 as they draw back towards the Baron.
Well, but it might be a little bit too much to go back on the Baron here. Yes, there's limited vision in the pit, but all they got for that was the support. Everyone else basically has his ability. You can see Shin has his ultimate. Levi, of course, has his on a very low cooldown, and now they're taking additional damage from the Baron. It's really risky to continue going for this.
I mean, again, it's only Subjugate that's available here for Marquette. Everything else, as you said, excluding both the Calling and also the Sona being eliminated, is there, so they can't really look for this fight. That would be a very 3 ultimate economy advantage for them, and they do have to bail out.
Yep. And smart that they do instead of full committing and actually potentially throwing the game there. This was just a 4,000 gold lead is on a nice edge when you look for plays like that. Yeah, they got the Sona picked off. That's good. But at the end of the day, that doesn't earn them more on the map, and they could only lose it by continuing to look for something terribly risky like that Baron. Instead, they'll clear out the side waves, maybe reset, and look to do that again. And hopefully next time around, they get a little bit more than the Sona.
All the while, it's now at that 2-minute marker for the Baron or the Dragon to come back up, so there could be some presence down below to get that vision, making sure that they have this appearance, because again, that's going to be the Dragon's Soul. And at this point, we could potentially see what we've had prior, where you do have a little bit of opportunity for Marquette to forfeit that Drake so that they could potentially have focus onto the Baron, or if they can find the advantage, they might trade the Soul for the Baron. But either way, they do have options here across the map, as there's still a lot of focus to try and push out that top lane. Even Kennen right there, making sure that they can get a shove for a crashing wave in the top.
Yeah, and I know that if Cloud Soul was like a user in Twitch chat, then he probably would have muted audio from listening to me flame how useless Cloud Soul is most of the time by now. But in this game in particular, it's actually super high value for Marquette. The additional movement speed buff you get not only on the you get the CDR or ability haste, we're here in season 11 for Marquette's ultimates. Imagine the value of having a 3-stack Cloud Soul and the movement speed on that ultimate for Kennen's Slicing Maelstrom.
Yeah.
He hasn't had flash. In that last fight, he was only able to lock down Sona. That was the only person they could actually keep locked down in place. Imagine if he has flash or he has an additional burst of movement speed when he uses that ability to help him find backline access. It's basically a key component of Kennen gameplay, and now he'll have that additional buff in a minute's time when hopefully, for Marquette's side, they secure this Cloud Soul.
I just also love the itemization coming out from Shin with the shield bow and the bloodthirst. So there's just so much shield stacked up on this Graves to just try and have self-sustain going into these engagements because they really need it. Like if there's a little bit of side play that you're going to have the Graves go around and sticking away from the Sona for them to try and get that shielding and coverage of health, I mean, it needs to be an opportunity of a flanking positioning.
It does, and they have full vision control of their own jungle near this Baron, and it just comes down to, again, are you going to commit multiple members towards the Baron? How many members are you going to have go secure the dragon, if any? It is Soul Point, but it might not be their highest priority, as they're going to Predator in mid lane. Not going to find anything so far, as Mike's alone, actually.
No. Does get stunned into the Baron pit, does have that quick grab from Snickers on top to give the assistance. What? Beautiful follow-up by Geek, getting a pop onto Voltade, and now looking to follow up onto Mojo. Looks for the recall going back here, and you now have a great blast cone getting 5 on the Baron, rotating down. Carthago, Shin, and Mojo clustering together, but needs to be careful. Shin's gonna have to dash back, going in for the dive. Mike doesn't have the Yumi on top as the Colin comes through. Lots of damage. The flank though by Zach, gets the stun, wants to get the follow-up here onto another, and that's gonna be an easy lockdown to pick up Shin. The chase onto Carthago ensues. Geek is primed and crocked out of their mind as they rotate back onto the Baron to grab it and try and shove the wave.
Yeah, it may take a minute to actually finish out the Baron here, but watch what happens here. Zach is on the backside of the pit, so he can't be the one to start the fight, and like Mike, gets a little too confident. He shifts forward now without the Yumi and gets taken off. Yeah, he's going to survive for a millisecond until he's going to get ulted by the Graves. But at that point, Graves is just in a 1v4 and can't do anything about it. That's going to be a free Baron. They pick that up, but you can see on the bottom side of the map, Kassadin at least has the wherewithal to deny the soul immediately thereafter.
I mean, again, got to take your value where you can. We're reaching that 30-minute marker where we do start to see potentially, again, Butler trying to close the gap, but they are still playing catch-up here. They have the opportunity to. But Voltade getting picked up that quick by Geeked was dire for them to go into that engagement.
There's so much damage coming from Geekford right now. He's 8-0-4. He's legendary. He's worth 1,000 gold.
Yeah.
Now, he can play with Reckless Abandon. If he wasn't already, he's got a stopwatch in his inventory. He's got Flash and Ultimate available, and he can pretty much one-shot anybody who's maybe not Shin with all the shields he has. Everybody else is either going to have to Hourglass or Flash away or something if they don't want to get entirely one-shot. Like, if I was the Yumi player right now, if I was Snickers, I'd just be on Geek, bro. Look at this damage that's going to come through. Oh, he doesn't get the passive, bro.
No, Levi actually did and again, you have to try and get the first step. It's if you can get the early advantage onto this Echo play. Geek goes over the wall. Now Levi's going to potentially get it by the blue as it goes back and forth, has to force the stasis. That's the big shutdown gold that Levi wants, trying to chase him over the wall, and does get it. 1,000 gold in the pocket, but can't escape the likes of Zach. The Zonia's hopefully going to give some agency, but again, that 1,000 shutdown gold is huge to go in the pocket of Kassadin.
Yeah, huge and well played by Levi to get that pickup. Not only is it 1,000 gold off the map, but that's like taking the glove off of Thanos. You buy yourself some time to figure out a strategy to bring this back. You're not going to lose your base just yet. You have now a 4v4 that's much more in your advantage than having an 8-0 Echo on the map. So really well played, Levi. He gives his life, but he's going to say, yeah, worth every time.
And you can see they're trying to salvage this middle turret because, again, it has the capabilities of regenning health. They just try to get it before it's completely eliminated, but with the boosted damage here with the Baron buff into the mid lane, it should secure that it's taken down. As you do have Zach now looking to regroup underneath it. They're going to be able to get it, trying to get the True Shot Barrage, managing to proc the shield here onto Shin. Now with the aggression, TP's going to come out. They're going to for sure manage to get this inhibitor, opening it up for the extra minion damage, but they're just throttling into this. The health values are low. They might just want to try and press the attack here and rotate to the bot lane to get another.
Oh, for sure. They're still wearing purple for at least another few seconds here. They'll be able to pick up a second inhibitor and maybe look for the end.
Woo! Pillar comes out, getting a little bit of a stun onto Levi. Has to be cautious of that re-engagement. And now, again, it's still lasting. There is a stack of 5 versus 5 underneath the Nexus turrets. Tyler gets hit in the backside, but there's some nice sustainability and healing coming out from Mojo with that Sona play. Shields all around also giving assistance, as you do still have Zach waiting for possibly an opportunity to move in with the Maelstrom, but it's not favorable near these turrets.
I don't know. He's got that stopwatch still and a Yumi on him.
Oh, Geek goes in really hard. There it is in the back, managing to get 2, 3. It's going to be picked up almost, and there is the third. Shin has to flash out, dashing now with Tyler and the rest of the composition rotating around. Carthago continuing to focus the CS here, but he is not going to be long for this world as he goes back to the well to drink. But Shin getting back in with the health, actually backing by some space, and they can't get the 2 turrets by the Nexus.
Clearly, Butler has a better track record of ring around the rose because they just chase around the Nexus. They're able to get enough fountain healing that they chase around. They didn't actually lose a single Nexus turret. So basically, it would have been all the same if Marquette had just walked away after the second inhib. In fact, it's even better for Butler, all things considered, that they were able to pick up a couple of kills off of that. Yes, it's going to be another turret following topside, but they'll reset. Next thing on the map is going to be that soul point finally, and then they'll probably play through topside to try and end.
I mean, it's close. It's closing in. It's like the mighty anaconda just taking the life and the breath out of their enemy, and Butler is unfortunately the prey as they attempt to try and see if they can relinquish themselves from this constraint with the Dragon coming up in 60 seconds. The Dragon Soul for Marquette. They're in a prime position to see if they can get this and bring it to that game 3, which is, you know, again, Butler has managed to show that they are resilient, but I don't know if they're resilient enough.
Has the student become the master here for Marquette against Butler? Like, they lost game 1 pretty handily, but here they're commanding this victory over Butler, assuming they get the Nexus, which I think is pretty safe to say at this point with approaching a 10,000 gold lead. But I want to break down a little bit what's different about this game versus game 1. Is it really just like a cheese factor, or what's happened? I think we're looking at Geek Bro being unlocked as an assassin, being able to leave mid lane and go into the side lanes because everyone's playing aggressively enough that somebody's going to be half health. And a champion like this Echo, which they picked very early in the draft, means to me that they're willing to build off of the confidence from Geek Bro in mid lane and unlock him, as I described. And I want to see that happen again in game 3, where they may be stuck in that rut where they're kind of lost for action on the map. And if they're in that kind of a spot, it's much harder to beat a team like Butler that if you give them a moment, they will be able to bring this back. With Cloud Soul, again, remember, Flash available on Lyxac. Yuumi is attached to the cannon. At this point, with the Void Staff completed, it's so scary. It's a slicing maelstrom for sure. Carthago almost dead too.
Yeah, Mike coming in hot down that mid lane. True Shot Barrage plus the combo immediately after with the Q and just cleaning up that health value. And again, this is just going to be disastrous here for Butler, but they're going to have one last opportunity as the Baron comes up in 10. This engagement is going to be for this entire game. As it presents itself in the pit, you're going to have to see Butler find an early advantage, and maybe they could get that with that potential Scryer's Vision. But again, all these wards here are going to make it so challenging.
Yeah, Zach's trying to look for that flank. It's super important as there's many members that could cheekily get over the wall for a potential steal. Levi has his passive stacked up.
Oh, Levi gonna go in, has to force a stasis. Baron's gonna go down. There's the buff. Now as the culling comes in over the wall, it's gonna be Mike managing to escape, along with giving assistance here to Snickers, who got half health, bared the brunt of that culling, but is able to evade by latching onto Mike.
Yeah, I don't know if Zach lagged or something, but he blinked and was dead. Walking into multiple members, he didn't press R, he didn't get to Hourglass. I don't want to say any of that was a misplay, though. When you're caught in a position like that and your team already has secured the Baron, or is securing the Baron, you don't really want to just solo try and 1v5 at that point. Save those spells to close out the game in 30 seconds time. If he had used all of, the stopwatch, he used the Hourglass on top of it, his flash, then you don't have those tools available for the final fight, which should be around the next few minutes.
But look at this engagement. They come into the bush where there's no vision. Tyler's going to get absolutely obliterated on the front side as the shield comes out here up front by Voltage, as they're going to get actually overwhelmed. The numbers going back in favor of Marquette, and now looking to chase them down. Carthago in the back trying to play as best as possible with Jin as well, having the shield. Now attempting to try and get some shots, looks for the disengage. Blast Cone is there. They have to tap it quick enough to go over the wall. They do give some space, but there is a rotating flank coming out from Zach. They were killed earlier, but they respawn in time, and now they're going to look for the execution onto the Nexus as they just have to focus down these inhibs. And there's still 22 seconds before getting back with anybody else here for Butler.
Yeah, teleporting top for like a 3-lane approach. Look, they're taking the inhibitor bottom, they're taking the inhibitor mid, and they may be able to look to end additionally off of that. You said it, 20 seconds before a few members are back up off of Butler. Shin trying his best to hold as he did before, but that's going to be a flash.
Oh, They're just committing it. They want it over now. They want a game 3. They've managed to persevere through it. They had a struggle in the game 1. They've come back in game 2. They've definitely shown the worthwhile value. You've commented on Geeked managing to be unleashed, fully evolved, and coming out with all greater force. And honestly, that's going to be the focal point here, I think, going into this next game, where Butler's really not going to be able to allow that to happen a second time.
Geeked, bro. MVP of this fight for sure. He brought it back, carried his team to victory. I mean, it was an all-around well-done affair from the entire Marquette line, but definitely a beautiful performance there by Geeked, bro. And that brings us to match point, right? It's a best of 3 that's tied up. This is one of the first series I've actually seen go the distance in this early part, as with the schedule being has been to this point in the Big East Conference. I'm excited to see what happens for game 3. Will the same recipe for success be drafted by Marquette? Will they go back to that hyper early game with maybe different tools that they didn't find success in game 1? Or what will Butler see? I mean, they're no stranger of pulling out some cheese picks either. We'll see.
I mean, again, with this going to a third map, it's the first one I've had a chance to see since we've seen a lot of 2-0, so you and I are both in the same boat here, as we'll be heading to a brief break before entering into that third game to see who's going to be able to take it all, and if Marquette is actually able to take down one of the big 3 that we've talked about as the team of Butler, so don't go anywhere. We return for another game, my friends. It is a 1-1 score, a feat that we have not seen many a times so far on really either of the broadcasts. We heard on the mainstream one from EGF is that it was a 2-0 and a 2-0, and now we get the luxury of having a 1-1 score. I am Rich Red here with Superman, as we are going to make sure that we make this third and final one for this segment of the broadcast a good one.
Should be spicy, right? All the chips are on the table, and a couple of strategies used by these teams now. I don't know what to expect coming into to game 3. They had very similar bans for both games, but the picks were wildly different, and the strategies the same. So also different is what I meant to say. I'm not sure what to expect though, because I still think Butler is overall the stronger team. We've seen that in their strength of schedule, and we've seen that in previous years as well. They've only dropped a series to St. John's so far, and I mentioned that earlier on the call today about where I consider Butler in top 3 right here in the Big East. Marquette, upper middle of the pack, and we like to see this early in the tournament, them taking games, if not the series at hand, off of one of those top teams, those legacy teams here in the Big East Conference. But a lot of focus now in terms of bans onto the bottom side.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the Marquette opting to get rid of the Yumi, I'm a little surprised, because I mean, I guess they wouldn't want Butler to try and take advantage of what they had earlier, because that gave a lot of agency for them. But they're going to look to go elsewhere. But Butler at least responding to one of the picks that you focused, and they actually picked the Urgot that was banned back to back both times. And that might be something where they're looking at the formidable play of this top lane from Marquette, that they've been really focusing those hard 3, but now they've opened it up by feeling that the weighted cost of the Ezreal is far superior than letting the Urgot go in favor of Marquette.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. To summarize, shotgun knees greater than shotgun, right? Like, you've got Urgot is so strong if you have to be in short range of him, and that's what Graves has to do. So it's a great answer in the top lane. And maybe that means Butler will once again have to shift the Graves around on the map, or whether that's from level 1 onwards remains to be seen. But that means you've got LeBlanc available for Geek Bro. He's feeling hot off that game on Echo, and I really like to see this kind of confidence out of him. Right? The assassin on AP coming out of mid lane, he popped off last game, even at a point where he was worth 1,000 gold, and it took a Kassadin at maximum Riftwalk stacks to be able to take him down and trade his life to do it, right? That's the point we got Geek Bro to last game from Marquette. I want to see more of the same, and locking in a champion like that makes me think he's feeling hot, right? He's feeling like he can actually do it as what? All right.
Okay.
Zilean,
okay.
One of the strongest champions in the entire game in terms of utility, and they're going to pick him up. Here's the thing about Zilean. His laning phase is absolute dog water. Like, it's just nasty. You look at it sideways and you just want to puke. Like, he provides basically nothing in lane. Your rank 1 speed up is no better than, I don't know, Jhin 4th shot passive, giving him a little moves. It doesn't really change anything. And your bombs have to land double, and that's really hard to do, because then there's not a lot of damage, and the stun doesn't last forever. And at that point, you have no spells. You're just standing. But what you can do is, if you survive that laning phase, you hit level 6, you get a few more spells in there. You need 0 gold to be useful. You can literally be 0 and 10 as Zilean, and as long as you're like level 11 and have some ability haste in your kit, you're so useful. You make it so that champions don't need an hourglass. You make it so that champions can play extremely aggressive haphazardly. I'm looking forward to seeing what Marquette does here, because think about that. Combine Geek Bro's confidence coming off of that Echo game.
Yeah.
Combine that with the fact that now he has an ultimate available, Chrono Shift from Snickers. Like, that is huge. Now he can play as aggressively as his confidence says he wants to.
I mean, and you're going to see on the reverse side, a little bit of a response. It's going to be a challenge for Marquette in this bot lane. You've got this Nautilus, which is a brick wall in some respects when you're trying to engage. It has so much hard engage. And again, they needed to get this Nautilus in here because of the LeBlanc. If they allow Geeked to do what they had in the previous game, it is going to be a tear for Marquette onto Butler. And Nautilus is a hard answer to say, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, I am going to point and click CC you. And that's where that ultimate, I would feel 99.9% of the time of this game is going to be headed.
It should, yeah. And I like that you touch on the bottom lane because, like I described, Zilean having a rough early game, a rough laning phase. Well, what better way to punish that than to lock in Tristana, right? The Hail of Blades, jump forward with the rocket jump right onto Jhin. If he's reloading and Zilean misses his double bombs, there's nothing you can do. You're actually just dead. And both of you, too, because you get a reset on Tristana. So that's very volatile bottom lane, and Marquette really does just want to stay safe. When it comes to the mid lane, though, I'm watching Geek Bro. Levi picking up on the Vex here. It's kind of like a quasi Lissandra style pick.
Yeah.
You have the fear sometimes for counter engage, and your poke should land quite nicely onto the LeBlanc more often than not. But you're still a relatively immobile mage.
Yeah.
If you misstep too often, if your fear isn't up, you won't win those trades against LeBlanc.
And then also, too, even just outside of, that mid lane, the mobility here for both sides. I mean, there's going to be a lot of dominant aggressive pressure when it comes to the J4. We've been seeing that be such a huge influencer in a lot of these engagements. Again, it's, once you basically get a Cataclysm on this team, I mean, really the only one that could possibly evade is going to be Shin with that ability to maneuver outside of it. So if you can get a nice lockdown, I mean, again, the Tristana has that ability to evade for an ADC. So that's something that they responded to. But, to call back a little bit of where you say the Tristana on top of the Zilean. The Zilean was picked post Tristana and Nautilus. So it's like, that's a really ballsy and confident pick going into this. I mean, you're not getting counterplayed. Like, you're saying, I don't care what this bot lane has. I'm going Zilean because I feel confident in my play and in our goal and how that's going to translate actually into game.
Yeah. The confidence is important there. Confidence on Shin to pick the Graves once again. Confidence on Geekbro to play another AP assassin out of mid lane. Confidence to, with full knowledge that you're going to have a rough lane, pick the Zilean. I love this from both teams. They're bringing all the stops out here for game 3. All the chips are on the table. The series is on the line, and it would be great for the Marquette squad to pick up a win against Butler this early in these weeks of the Big East series. Like, I would love to see that happen for Marquette because they're the underdogs coming in here, and Butler, if they're going to continue to be contenders for like top 1, top 2 spots in this league, they really do have to step it up and show that they can close out against a team like Marquette.
And as we do enter on to Summoner's Rift for the third and final game between these two, it's the one that matters most as they draw near that lower section. And again, when you've got this Nautilus play for that dredge line to try and find a pick here, it's a great opportunity. Again, ships in the night, as we've commented earlier. You said it outright, and we're seeing that all over again, but from a different squad for the same show.
Ships in the night. They both are unaware of each other on this side of the map. Hopefully it doesn't turn into an actual boat crash for either one of them. It would be bad to face check further.
No.
Oh, speaking of.
No, they're going to look to try and get out. They're not. Well, they might hold it. I mean, it's
Shin recalled, but the rest of them are staying here. Maybe they're going to actually take away the buff. Again, this wouldn't be in knowledge. Snicker is going to walk over Vision.
Oh no, they've got full knowledge of it. They're going to get the stun first into the dredge line, and they're going to be able to get that pickup early. That is going to spell disaster with First Blood going in favor of Voltaid. And they're going to be able to take the blue buff and be able to be in a really strong early advantage here.
Yeah, and the good news is that kill wasn't given over to, say, Tristana, who could then just take it and run with it. That snowball potential there is absurd. It's going to go over to Voltaid, which gives him, he can hit his item spikes sooner and maybe gives him a little bit more tempo as a jungler. But he's not going to be a general high tempo. Speaking of high tempo, level 2 mid.
Looking to see if they can get that. Tyler wants to take the early advantage. Has the flag and drag to force back Vex. And again, just giving some presence of mind, knowing that, the Trundle's actually still near over by blue. Actually, is going to try and rotate up.
They have find another.
Yeah.
They've got multiple members that can continue to aggress. And that just means they'll back out. Yeah, look at that. They're going to concede the jungle back over to the Jarvan, which means at best they could 3-buff, but no extra camps there. Honestly, great bluff call.
Ooh, what an aggressive flash coming in by Mojo. Wanted the follow-through for the melee stun after the dredge line hits. Could not manage to get it. That would have been Snickers a second time going down, but evades for now and pops a lot of the health packs to get themselves back to a stable value. Yeah,
no summoners, and Jarvan is here.
Yeah. Seeing if now Tyler can maybe try and bait this out. Double stun misses. Carthago is going to be at least covered for the while. Mojo gets the stun for now before the flag and drag. Great stop! Huge play by Mojo to prevent that follow-through onto Carthago, and now you've got Voltaid there to give some reinforcements to prevent them from getting any more advantage or opportunities by Marquette in the bot lane.
Yeah, we've got to watch closely on Snickers. The last 4 bombs haven't landed, let alone being stuns. The knockup is true.
Mojo gets the stun, but Voltaid is so low, has to flash out as you've got Carthago looking in for the pick. That's going to be the gold in the pocket, looks for the double with that jump reset. There it is. And that's the snowball you want here. Butler coming out with guns blazing.
Yeah, that's Tristana gameplay we expected to see. Reset into reset. They get a couple kills. Could have been the third if First Blood had gone their way. And now they're eyeing this Jhin who's staying around to get a few extra minions.
I mean, at this point, I mean, Butler's got a perfect game to start. I mean, you're at 4 minutes. You're 3-0. You've got a great gold lead. You snowball in the ADC. And, I mean, really, the only thing that you could probably look now to try and put some agency to is potentially this top lane to force back maybe the Urgot or give some assistance to try and push back Geeked. And you're in a prime position.
Yeah, your win conditions are very clear now. It's great to have them handed to you. Your Tristana has a pickaxe up over her counterpart in bottom lane. That's who you want to put additional resources into. Try and get extra plates down. Tristana's great at taking those towers down early, and as soon as you can take bottom lane in the first few dragons, then you just shift them towards top lane and bully away Zac and take turrets plating off of top lane and more. That's the game plan here for Butler, and we'll have to see if they can execute upon it, or if with the kind of aggression we've seen out of Marquette, they can turn things around, because there's absolutely opportunity to do that. There's not a lot of vision on the map yet, and you saw early, Tyler was able to call the bluff. Voltaid was starting on his inside Tyler's jungle, but instead of just conceding it all, then Tyler said, no, I'm going to come over and force you back out.
And now as we continue to try and focus towards between the bot and mid lane, I mean, mid lane's going to be a little bit more slow. You do have Levi with a lot of mana gone, as now you're going to have Shin looking to try and be chased down, getting some decent damage, as you've got now Voltaid with the assistance. Nice slow. There's the pillar. Tyler managing to try and move around. It has the shield for the moment, but it's not going to last for long as they attempt to try and re-engage for a stun, falling short. Zac now having to escape. Levi is there. Just stack of kills going across the board here for Butler, and they are just in a, again, continued acknowledgement and map awareness to gain these advantages.
Yeah, and even 2v2, they're pushing in, finding success in the bottom lane still, of course, expected with the Tristana having her item there. And yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the scoreboard here, because across the map, we see CS numbers remaining relatively close other than the jungle. And that's curious to me when you see a team that's already up 5-0. Yes, some of those CS is going to be lost when they're fighting so often, but that should be true of the enemy team as well.
Nice poke that's coming through. Those occasional double taps, which are necessary to try and be in the bot lane. And honestly, you're just going to continue to see Butler, though, try and press back. Again, leaving Snickers into a very, very challenging laning phase. Still not yet 6, continuing to give that XP gain though, so Mike does have the slight advantage nearing that curtain call as he gets a couple of decent shots here onto Carthago, but again, nothing too dire for them to be in a state of advantage as they look to try and roam potentially towards this middle portion where the dragon's going to be. And again, that's the next focus here at the 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah, they do start it up right over the wall. They have vision denial in the pit. Should be fine, as Snickers and Mike are going to push this lane as they should, get themselves a recall. But now they're in a 2v3. Oh,
gets the jump forward, does land the slow, and the exhaust is committed. Both going to be hit by that Riptide underneath for the slow. They can't escape. You've got Mike going down. Overcommits by Carthago, and because of the flash, it resets the turret. So you do have Mojo going down, so there's at least something going to Marquette, but I mean, just really outplaying and actually forfed the dragon for the moment to go back in for that engagement. So a little bit of overzealous play, but they're still going to end up in the long run getting and netting that dragon.
Yeah, I actually like seeing that they were willing to peel off the dragon, even though they had started it, because they realized that Mike and Snickers were taking the opportunity to push the wave, which put them in a precarious position. They get the 2v3, and it works out really well there for Butler. They get the dragon, they get a couple more kills for their trouble, or just the one, excuse me, but trade 1-for-1 under the turret. A little overzealous. You saw Mojoromo trying to tank longer for Carthago to dive deeper, but you're not that tanky as a Nautilus this early, so you're going to fall to a tower like that.
A big roam coming out by Mojo, and there is acknowledgement of it by Tyler. Warning. So you're going to have that back really quick by Zach to make sure that they can get that extra necessary items. A couple of armors here to make sure that they can sustain through the damage, but you've got the double longsword coming through for Shin, just looking to try and do as much as they can. And, I mean, throughout the map, you can see Snickers trying to play towards that middle position to give the assistance. Now you've got a level 7 LeBlanc, too, attempting to try and just continue to sustain in this middle position as they rotate top.
Yeah, I would like to see them going a little bit more aggressive onto Carthago and Mojoromo. They're outnumbered up here on the map, and they also are down
vision.
summoner spells.
There was a nice
Scryer's
vision
Bloom.
coming through from the Scryer's Bloom, yeah, so they've got full knowledge of all of the players there that were hiding in that tri-bush since there was no vision available, and now they're going to rotate down to try and get Rift Herald here in favor of Butler, just continuing to take advantage of their objectives. Nice smoke screen to try and prevent it. Mike has no real ability to evade this damage. Shin going to play almost too aggressive here and gets a couple of tower shots.
Well, it's the confidence, right? He picked this early again, 2 games in a row, and it's working out really well for him. Not quite a CS advantage over his counterpart, but not terribly behind either. And now he's in a position to bully out like Mike like this. And what that does for them is denies additional golden experience from the Jhin, who needs to scale, while on the map, there's opportunity for Tristana to help get that Herald and use her Bluster Shot passive and her E to secure these extra tower plates as we approach the 10-minute mark.
And again, we find ourselves rotating lanes, only this time it's primarily just the top and bot. We're going to leave Vex just happily in that mid lane for Levi. And now looking to try and see if they can try and take these turrets, try to push to potentially go towards some of those plates, as 2 are actually going to go down at the top lane. Zach really just at a disadvantage, especially when you got Voltate being there as well with the Rift Herald. That'll be a quick cleanup onto this turret. Dredgeline goes in, gets the stun. They've got the dive in the backside. Carthago going to take it, and even rotation from the mid lane, and you've got Geek coming in a second late. That turret's going down, and now you just have to bob and weave, but when you've got another Dredgeline coming through, they know which one it is. We aren't even in debate, and they get a double kill in the top lane, plus the turret, and continue this snowball down the Avalanche.
Everything they want. An Avalanche worth 5,000 gold now at only 10.5 minutes. That's insane of an advantage to get here, as Tyler's starting to, I think he's in trouble. Yeah,
Will it go over? Yeah, I mean, but again, Summoner down. Again, constantly having to force these out so early.
Yeah, and it's really spelling great things here for Butler, as they're not going to quite have the perfect game because of that death in bottom, but they're quite close to it. Going to take another couple plates off of mid if they can find another. It's a little greedy, though.
Gonna get out. No worries. Use the leap. Get a dredge. Gonna head out. Say peace. No worries. We out. I'm just gonna go back, and I mean,
spend. There's so much gold in Tristana's pocket. I expect to see a completed item here. Most likely going to go for, okay, not quite enough to complete it, I guess.
Yeah, just shy. Has quiver and also cloak, so.
Yeah, there's the extra dagger just thrown in there in the mix, since doesn't want to spend too much time waiting for it. I expect to see the Kraken Slayer. I don't think it's common to see the Noon Quiver built into a Gale Force on Tristana. You have the 3-hit rune keystone. You also have, of course, have an attack speed steroid in your kit. That's definitely how you want to play it with that burst.
Now the focus comes all towards the mid and bot. Top lane is able to leave and abandon just because that turret is there, but still going to try and reside up top, especially because the Urgot's pressure. And I mean, even though the Urgot is down, still continuing to maintain the CS, trying to get these plates to see what value they can get at this top position so they can complete an item is honestly really the only one with a completed mythic is going to be in that mid lane. Levi having that first one done. Now towards the bottom position, you're going to have the Drake up in 15 seconds, so ward presence is going to be critical.
Dragon should go the way of Butler. Yeah, easy to complete a mythic when you don't spend, you know, over 1,000 gold on boots.
Right.
That is going to be where Levi is lacking right now, which shouldn't matter too much for his mobility when his ultimate is available, but might be a struggle if he tries to play towards the front of the fight because he won't be able to safely stand. They're going to pick that up. That's the second here for Butler. I think with this kind of advantage, it'll be unlikely that they'll need to trade any of these next dragons over. They should be able to look at a soul at 23 minutes.
Now you can see the normal roams coming here. Levi going to go into the bot lane to try and pressure as there's a lot of aggression coming forward. You've got Shin playing towards where the Raptors are to see if they can get some decent extra gold, but instantly going to be taken by Marquette as they continue to try and ward their half of the map. It's going to be very challenging to press out to get vision, to know exactly where they are, to play a little bit more aggressively since you've got Butler at this point covering all of River.
Yeah, the only window I think back in this for Marquette is that once they finish that mythic item on Geeked Bro, they look for a Cataclysm into Double Bomb into double distortion from Geeked Bro, and they try and burst out a couple to 3 members at a time in that Cataclysm. That's the dream scenario, of course, for Marquette, but at this point in time, Butler doesn't need to group up that much. They, other than the Dragon there just to secure it for sure, they haven't needed to concentrate more than 3 members in any given location on the map. They've tried to do some 4-person roams, but it hasn't really been all that successful, but also they've lost nothing for it. What they can do to continue to push this lead here is just circle around the Tristram, right? Your jungle and your support are just going to keep her safe as she continues to melt these turrets. And on the side waves, nobody's really going to find success matching the Graves. He's got his shield bow, which means he's basically immortal at this point. It literally is in the name of the item. And Geek Bro is going to be able to match Levi, but you can see he gets pushed in a lot easier. Levi using the last of his mana to keep that shoved in, and then we'll recall.
Yep. Couple of pots here just in case to see if they need it for anything. If an engagement comes through, no junglers near, so the back is going to come through. And with it now being towards this top position, you've got the Rift Herald up in just a short amount of time so that they can get that once again to try and again push the momentum either in that mid lane or bot lane. As you can see it, basically Voltade continuing to float around that area, managing the timer, as now they actually even acknowledge that they want to try and push up here, but there's a ton of wards in that back position. Tribush having that vision, so there's no going to be real any value at least to it, but again, you can see that Rift Herald going to be here, and they're going to take it quickly.
Yeah, another neutral objective being picked up by Butler, and that's key for this to be snowballed into not just an advantage of gold, but an advantage of map position. We'll be able to pick up this now, the second Herald of the game, which I believe they call Herald instead of Shelly. The second one is Herald with an O. Instead of Shelly for the first one. It is secured. It looks like they'll use it to either break mid or continue to push the advantage past mid. So they may be able to use this cannon wave. Yeah, they're going to commit both. It looks like they're going to look to break mid and maybe look for more off of the tier 2. Wave is cleared out quite quickly by the Zillion, which means they do lose the outer turret. That's the second going the way of Butler. And next up is that Dragon. It's 2 minutes away. This is the third one, not quite Soul Point. Once again, we get a yawn fest of a Cloud Soul brought to you by Riot Games. And I would expect that there will be only as much priority put on this by Butler as it's faux pressure. It's not about the Dragon anymore. It's not about trying to get an early soul. It's about trying to funnel the enemy into fighting you when they're down 6,000 gold. If they actually try and fight you head on, you're probably going to lose a lot more than just the Dragon.
I mean, and look at this aggression, trying to get a little bit more of a proxy, but I mean, they don't even need it. They've got the turret down now, but Shin going to be a little bit, that's the one target of 2 that we talked about where it'll be an easy escape over the wall, but there is a lot committed. Curtain call. You've got Geef coming in. Shin just going to bob and weave get stunned up by the flag and drag as you actually still have them alive. Shin gonna get out with their life, and the stun comes through onto Zac after the TP from top lane. Double kill in favor of Voltaid. And I mean, Butler saying, we've got everything necessary to keep Shin alive, and they play in the best game of dodgeball of their life.
Tyler, Cataclysm in, thinks he's getting away with highway robbery, but really it's call an ambulance, but not for me, as the Shin actually survives through it all, and they get the tier 2 as a bonus prize off of that great play. This score's now 10-1, and that gold lead has ballooned to 8,000, and of course, now the Dragon is just completely free for them 20 seconds away.
I mean, it must just be the fact that he's in his swimsuit and he doesn't have any sort of restrictions. He's running barefoot around all this stuff. I mean, my goodness, traction to the ground is tried and true.
Cloud Soul is just going to be about 5 minutes away. If they want it, it's theirs for the taking. And a Baron, too, is just 2.5 minutes away, which would be a nice way to close out this match. This is the Butler that you want to see. If you're looking for them to perfect their form and try and build up their momentum coming into the postseason, I know we're only halfway or so through the season so far, but as they build this momentum, this is the kind of gameplay you want to see from them. Early leads translating into more aggression, into turrets after turrets after turrets. They all gas, no breaks. That's what you want to see from a team like Butler. And from Marquette, you want to see them keep their wits about them. Right now, they've only been able to pick up the 1 kill, and it was honestly kind of an int from Carthago, inting his support to the turret. And the next up, the only opportunity I see once again is that Cataclysm play. They almost pulled it off, but they chose the wrong target. Shin is just one of the only people that is not a good target for that kind of a play.
I mean, again, because I mean, the Tristana can leap away. I mean, yeah, like it's down, and then you can probably have a follow through. But like the ability to just get that reset of the dash, you've got potentially that backpedal as well for the ultimate use. There's so many things that are stacked up in their favor to be able to escape that. But, you know, with now this focus towards the top position, looking to try and get some warding, and 60 seconds until the Baron is up, so that is their next prime location of focus.
Oh, and it's so fast.
Yeah, it's gonna be fast.
You've got Leandres from your mid laner completed. You got Kraken Slayer from Tristana. You've got another AD carry. You also have Trundle who can stay healthy. They're going to be able to threaten this Baron easily. They do it fast. They do it healthy. They do it in denying all this vision. You can't face check into this. It's very scary situation for Marquette University. I really don't see much of a path back in, because now we're at the point where a Cataclysm onto what would have been a key target, we'll say Vex or whatever. Now she's got this stopwatch. She's going to have Hourglass soon thereafter. You don't have an opportunity to actually burst her out anymore. Same thing is true of Trundle. He's got the 4 kills. He's also now tanky. He's got the Mercury Treads. He can use Subjugate to drain tank his way through any sort of engage you have. And what's left after that? Who doesn't have a dash? The Nautilus,
I mean, you could say
with
Nautilus,
but
you've got Locket, you've got auto stun, you've got potentially a hook for landing it to make it just draw out even longer. I mean, it's a real challenge right now as they're just going to start it. They've got so much presence around this Baron.
Yeah, I mean, they started it right at the 20-minute mark. It's already halfway gone, down to 6K, and they're zoning away the enemy members of Marquette.
Got curtain call, body block. Mojo's just going to sit there with a shield. Even forces out the depth charge in the back onto Tyler. They give the space necessary for an easy pickup coming out from Voltaid as they now look to try and press the attack into one of these lanes. They could honestly look for a collapse, but they're all going to back. They're going to manage to purchase. They're going to get themselves situated and look to try and go for the goal.
Yeah, good try by Marquette, not overcommitting to stop the Baron, but also giving it their best shot. Getting a couple flashes for their trouble, too. It's a small victory for Marquette, but the huge victory is this 10-1 score line with 4-0 in turrets. So close to a perfect game because they just picked up the Baron as well. Things are looking dire for Marquette, and we can only expect that Butler should be able to close this out in just a couple minutes.
Perfect. I mean, yeah, just literally 1 kill of a perfect game. I mean, that's, you gotta hold your hat high to them for that type of dominance. As now you're gonna see Shin looking to chase down Geeked. Just looking to keep some vision onto it. Has the ability to evade, so not really too scary. But I mean, you know, it's just a little close for comfort.
Yeah. Quite too close for comfort. And I kind of feel for Geek Bro. Like, got the assassin in mid again, just never could find an opportunity because his teammates were dying everywhere else on the map. So we might see a gauge.
Oh, big flash coming in stun. Has to instantly get out. Tyler managing to escape. But look at how low the health value is and so much committed. Now going to go in. You've got Vex looking for the backline positioning with the fear. Getting so low into the back. Geek has to actually vanish over the wall. Double kill coming through onto Levi. Managing to just take down. There's another going through in the back line. But does get overwhelmed in return. You've got now the Zonia stasis. It's actually going to be the Zillion ultimate instead. Trying to keep Mike alive. But there is no ability to get an extra pick here. Geek goes back for the health value. But you still find yourself losing the inhibitor.
Painful. That was like the only opportunity we talked about it. That's what Jarvan can do. That's all he's got left in his tank is go for that play. But there's a stopwatch. There's all those ways to play around this. They're just too tanky to take them down as they're going to try and fight one more time to defend the base.
Snickers goes in with a movement speed, gets stretch lined in the back, managing to get stunned. There's a big positioning on the Graves, landing with so much damage. Geeked is going to be forced out towards the bottom position. Health bars are kind of low here, though. Zach just trying to give enough onto this turret to prevent that turret from going down so it can actually regain some health, and they managed to keep it alive.
A great base defense there from Marquette. May have breathed some life back into themselves, but with only 2 kills secured on their team, and both of those in the hands of Snickers on the support Zillion, who doesn't need gold, but happens to have it. Oh, they're not in a great position. No, Voltite might be caught out of position. Great pillar. It's quite filthy, if you ask me.
I mean, pillars just in general, more often than not, coming out from any of the plays that we've seen from the... Oh, actually going to dive in quickly onto Voltade, but Zach gets obliterated in the backline. Carthago comes in with the shots necessary. A follow-up from Levi onto Geek, who is almost popped, but will be from the side angle of Shin. You've got the ultimate procced onto Mike. They're just going to hold off and wait for the takedown so that they can get it without any sort of resurrection. And you've got this cleanup once again, 18-2. 4 Dragons. The soul is there. They have their eyes fixated on the crystal that is this third game, where you will have Butler looking to hyper-focus it. They don't need to worry about the other lanes. They're looking to take it down now and clean it up. Even though it's the first third map we've seen together here, my friend, it's still going to be Butler coming out on top and claiming the win.
In under 26 minutes, that's what we were looking for of a team like that, right? With that kind of a composition. You're going tight, and they get that win. It's going to be Butler 2-1, but surprisingly, Marquette able to take a game off of them. That's great to see if you're a fan of Marquette, and good for the progress of their squad. Butler maybe looking a little shaky. Haven't dropped a game like that, but overall, they come out victorious with the best of 3.
And again, there was one moment where I felt it was the word content and just comfort in game 2, where it was a little bit of, all right, let's kind of sit back and relax in the chair a little bit. I felt like that's something that, Butler was kind of feeling. And Marquette fully acknowledged with their picks and bans coming through what they wanted to do. They were able to accelerate, open up that floodgate for the mid lane, which unfortunately in this third gate did not happen. Butler, again, came out so strong in this third game, just completely throttling Marquette. And I mean, it showed, what, like you said, almost a perfect game outside of the 2 kills that went to the Zillion.
Yeah. To the Zillion support. I mean, we could speculate all we want about what happened in game 2. Was it comfort? Was it a bad draft? Was it just a misplays? But we could ask the members themselves. Looks like we have just waiting in the wings, Jay Shin, the Graves extraordinaire. Whenever we're ready. I look forward to hearing from him in our interview.
Awesome. We'll see you around the corner of this one for that interview. Hello and welcome back, friends. As we are here, we do have Jay Shin coming from Butler University, and we just saw you take the third game. How are you feeling after that long and extensive battle between the two?
I'm feeling pretty good about this.
It's good to hear that you're holding your head high. It was a little
Yeah.
bit of a back and forth throughout the series. Game 2, you guys dropped it. I want to hear from you directly. How did you feel about Game 2 as a team? Because it didn't look like the same Butler we're used to seeing.
Oh yeah, so for game 2, we're trying to try something different here. We're trying to try for some late game champs, and we just couldn't do it, couldn't execute.
I mean, they had a lot of agency towards that mid lane and
Yeah.
trying to recover from the echo play, which was, I mean, there was some great opportunities to challenge it, but it became, like you said, towards that later position where you just couldn't catch up. And honestly, you came back and throttled in game 3, though, feeling pretty confident about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, with the time, at least to kind of talk and knowing that you were trying some strats in this and curious to see how that'll carry over in the future. Again, we want to be respectful of your time and also for our next game. But do you have any shout outs or anyone that you just want to give some, fond, kind words to out there that are, either watching, supporting, or those that have been around for you in this game of League of Legends?
I'll shout out my whole entire team because they're just gapping them. I love them. And I'll shout out my boys in my roommates. CJ, Zach Tyler, let's go.
Well, it's great to hear. I know they're probably just as thrilled for you as we are, seeing you take this victory again. First of few that we've actually seen go to that third game. But again, we look forward to seeing how these continued weeks go for you, especially passing over the holiday before returning towards that playoff series where we look to see you, with the way that you've been playing. But again, we do greatly appreciate your time, Jay Shin. So celebrating the spoils. We've got more weeks ahead of you, and it's been a pleasure to be able to cast you, my friend.
All right, thank you.
Alrighty, and for those that are here, again, we are not done yet. We do still have another series ahead of us. Again, a best of 3, as we've got the last one for the day going to be Providence College versus Georgetown University. It is not going to be myself and Superman casting for the rest of this moment, though. It's going to be Sir Aaron and Mac taking it away after this break. But I gotta say, Superman, it's been a pleasure being alongside of you for the first time, and quite a day worth of League of Legends for us to cast.
Pleasure is mine, and I'm stick around in the spectator view because I want to see if Georgetown can bounce back because they looked good earlier today, and I think they have a shot at taking some games in the next series. So yeah, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
We'll be able to see, and again, Sir Aaron and Mac will be taking you through the action, so don't go anywhere, friends, because they'll be seeing you on the other side of this break.